Hey, what up, you boy? Appreciate you being here as soon as I went live, but I happen to have it on high authority that Jay was here for like the last 40 minutes, 45 even. But you're first in my heart. What up, your boy? How you doing? Still setting up. I was rushing. Let's try. I've been here an hour. It's been an hour. Okay. Yeah, I saw you went live, and I was like, oh shit. Let me message him directly. My bad. But welcome in, everybody. I'm about to play one of the sweetest goddamn games ever made. I'm excited. Also, it's really hot in here, so let me turn on my AC. Get this going. Just about ready. Welcome in. Cool. Tight. Cool. But it says I'm first on here, though. That's all that matters. I mean, I saw. I actually have a live feed of who's viewing my channel, at least with usernames. You've been here. In fact, I even see in my chat log he did message first at 8:15 my time. I got $30 randomly from my music, so I picked up the first Red Dead to stream after being Red Dead 2. Oh, right on, dude. Since I played Red Dead 1, I'll actually be in those streams. Assuming it's not at like 5 in the morning my time. Or when I'm at work. But, what am I forgetting? I don't know. Let's go. Let's do it. Oh, wrong button. Let's check out my battery life. Yay! Alright, what was I doing here? Welcome, would you like a room? Yeah. With the meal, please. Please zoom out. Actually, I could and should probably make this windowed for my preview. Let's try that, because this is gigantic. Let's see. New window? Is that because I know I can preview this windowed? Yep. Scale it. There we go. That's better. Hell yeah. Sorry, guys. So you're in ads anyway. I think New Parm's food is delicious, don't you, Justin? Yup. The streamer had only canned food. I'm just glad the food is hot here. Haha, right. Sometimes the captain gave us some nice fresh baked bread, though. Fresh baked bread? Huh? How come I never got any? Right? I didn't know there was fresh bread. Yeah, of course you didn't, Justin. That's because you slept in too late. Oh, dude, that's my problem. By the time you got up, Justin, the bread was already cold. Why didn't you wake me? Oh, alright. Done. Yeah, but if I asked you to wake me, I'd have to hear your "you can't do anything without me" speech again. The Red Dead 2 stream is not really much of spoilers. If you played the first Red Dead, they explain things that happen in the second. Oh, well, I know it's a prequel, but I mean, there is an immediate story there that I don't know about, you know? You can spoil that game. I don't know what you mean. Besides, it's not always the destination, it's the journey. Been to many places so far. I've studied the local culture, and now I'm studying New Parm. But what surprises me about this town is that none of my knowledge from the past trips seem to mean anything here. That's a good thing, after all. It's fun to learn about things that I don't understand yet. Look at this animated lady right here. I'm so sorry. I mean it. I won't ever do it again. I'll be more careful from now on. What'd you do? Today, when I was cleaning, I spilled some water from the bucket on a guest. I've got to stand here as punishment. Oh, how clumsy of you still. They're making you stand here? What is this, grammar school? I have to go to like Fina's house. I think they were saying some shit about like, oh yeah, I go here. Oh wait, I have to go into town proper. That's right. What do you guys say? Welcome to the Adventure Society. What kind of adventure would you like? The Adventure Society, we've set up all kinds of adventures to meet the needs of our new customers. Set up adventures? I'm not sure what you mean. Well, anyway, I like to go to Alent and see the Angelo civilization. Alent for the Angelo civilization? I'm afraid we haven't prepared any tours for that area. If you'd like to see some ruins from Angelo, you can go to the Dom ruins south of New Parm. That's fine. I'm sure we'll find something good if we go to the Dom ruins. How do we get there? Unfortunately, we found the Dom ruins tour is kind of dangerous, so we don't send tours there anymore. Well, then why the fuck did you suggest it? You don't go because it's dangerous? An adventure should be dangerous. Hold on, it's also hot. Let me turn the AC. That's what I forgot. Nothing. It's like 40 degrees. I figured I should. Oh, it's 55, but I should just open up some windows. I think I'm getting close to beating Red Dead 2. It feels like it. Oh, I must have missed. Oh, okay. I misinterpreted what you said. When you said after beating Red Dead 2, I assumed that meant like you already did it. You mean it's lined up to play after you finish Red Dead 2. I gotcha. This is your second time playing it or your first time? Forget. But in any case, I'll definitely try to catch your Red Dead 1 streams. I like that game. Is it going to be an adventure? Is that right? Come on. Is that right or not? Is that right or not? You need to be a member of the society. You need the president's okay. He's back there in the office. If you become members, will they guide us to the Dom ruins? I'm afraid no one goes there now. Once you're a member, you can get a map of Valencia. You can go on your own. Cool. Bet. Mr. President. I'm gonna say the password. Say it right now or I won't let you in. The password is pomegranate. The password. Oh, I need Fina, don't I? And then when Fina sees me return, she'll fall hopelessly in love with me. Oops, what am I saying? A strange old man walking around like that and talking to himself. Red Dead 2 comes before the first. I beat 2 like 2 times already on PS4. Nice. Yeah, I know it's a prequel. I just haven't played it myself. It seemed a little too like complicated overall. It's like the password is oops all berries. Nice. But I want to give it another chance, especially since like here it's a good story and I want a good story, you know? 1 was great. 1's a fucking masterpiece. Traveling salesman. Good for you. Man, I went to this horrible tour called the Mythical Snake Discovery Tour. We were attacked by flies. I got bit by a camel. It was really awful. The first Red Dead is faster paced. Yeah, good. What's in here? House 3. No houses. Let me. The pawn shop? Okay, let's go there. What you got, boy? Excuse me, but I can't be doing business with little kids like you. Or are you here to sell something? I'd be happy to take things off your hands. Probably, actually. I'll keep the whip because I think Fina uses it. Oh, I'm good then. Alright. Fuck you. You working tonight, you boy? And congrats on making $30 off your music. That's awesome, dude. Is it like AdSense or something? Like people come listen and you get money from views or plays? I don't know how that works, but that's no small matter. Good job, bruh. Oh, not yet. That's a turd of camel. But that's a huge creature. You really get a sense of how vast this new continent must be, huh, Stu? Word. Alright, that's house 3. Okay, where the fuck is Fina's bullshit? Or... I wish they start the ceremony and the bride would appear and guests are tired of waiting. I want to catch the bouquet that the bride tossed out at the end. If I catch it, I'll be married next. I heard of that. Isn't that a wonderful custom? I'd want to catch the bouquet too. Bitch, you're a child. Shut up. Hey, you guys. Hey, you guys. What town are you from? If there's anything you need to know, just ask me. I can tell you everything about this town. Why, thanks, actually. I've just arrived here. We didn't even know what to ask about. Yeah, I'm working right now, and yeah, I get 1 cent per listen. Oh, dude. That's a lot of listens. Hell yeah. Right on, brother. We haven't had a wedding in so long. We've got to get this place nice and clean for the occasion. The priest told me he'd clean up the storeroom in the back. I wonder if he's finished. We go back, he's just like fapping. He's like, where is the door to get back there so I can go catch him? Oh, cool, I can play that. 1 to 13 cents. Oh, that's cool though. Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, good shit. It's lovely to get paid for doing something you like, you know? And it's like, that's like passive income. So it's like, you just make the shit and then people listen and then you're like, hell yeah. That's like what I'm trying to do with my, mansion too. That's what I'm trying to do with my, piano time. Hey, what up, Contextual Penguin? My Etsy. All my Etsy stuff. Like, I'll make $100 off something I made like last year, you know? It's cool. Despite how I look at the moment, I'm seen as the town's #1 girl. Who do you think is cuter, me or that Fina person who's got such a feisty spirit? Who do you think's hotter, me or that bitch Fina over there? I'd say Fina, for sure. After all, Fina wouldn't even ask such a question. Town's #1 girl could mean a lot of things. We know what it means. A bottom bitch, that's what we call that in the business. What's with you? Such a sassy little girl. It's obvious I'm just much cuter. Ever since she was little, Miss Sherry saw Fina as her rival. She competes with her over everything. When Fina let her hair grow long, Sherry tried to grow hers even longer. And when Fina became an adventurer, Sherry tried to become one too. She bought the same whip and knife. Cool. Good story, bro. What up, Penguin? How you doing? It's Mansion 1. Mansion 3. Where's Mansion 1? Oh, this is Mansion 1. Doing alright? Hell yeah. So you guys are adventurers, huh? The #1 adventurer in this town is Fina. You know her? I don't know why I want to give them all like a transatlantic accent. Yeah. Me, I've known her ever since she was a wee little kiddo. She's just like my own daughter. Yeah, it's nice to get paid for. I decided to reinvest in a game for my streaming. So I was like reallocating funds for investment. Hell yeah. We're all friends with Fina. We were on the streamer together. Are you also rivals with this bitch? Excuse me. I've always had this weak constitution. It's nice to have guests again. Guess what? We came from Parm. Really? All the way from Parm? I have a pen pal in Parm. Her name is Francois. Do you know her? No? I never got a reply from Francois in Parm. I wonder if something's wrong. Friend. Cois? I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'm afraid I don't know her. You should make the person talk like the old man from South Park. Oh, don't go off the road, though. You mean Judd from Pet Sematary? That's basically who that is. Brown Sow. Does the Pet Sematary reference for the milkman? Don't worry, though. I'm sure you'll get a letter soon. Check all these mansions out. I'm gonna talk to anybody else. Where's Fina? Bring me Fina! That's why I always thought the older brother shouldn't think of Akon. Isn't that a Dragon Ball character? Pycon? As his rival. Should he? Is that right? I never met this Pakin dude. So I really don't know. Pycon. What? You never met him? Well, I'm sure you only need to meet him once or twice to know. I have a friend called Pakin. I guess you could say he's something like my rival. A rival, huh? What's he like? Well, he's got good fashion sense, good looks, and good natured too. All in all, he's a pretty cool dude. What core plot points do you remember from this game anyway? I remember Sue actually leaving the party, and that upset me. Honestly, not much. Not much. Oh, am I gonna run into Pakin? Yo, where do I go? I went to the adventure thing, but they're like, oh, you need a password. I can tell you that. By the way, yeah. House 1. Oh, dinner theater. Looks like it's almost a fresh playthrough with the advantage of not losing mana eggs. Oh, I already... Oh, wait. You're a rival, huh? What do they set? What do they rep? What set do they rep? I don't get it. But, yeah, this is basically a fresh playthrough. It's been... Like, what did I say? Like 8 or 9 years since I played it? And I played 2 several times. Don't stop me sometimes. The man just has to go, and this is one of those times. What? Where are you going? On an adventure? An adventure, huh? Game is pretty generous with them anyway. It just prolongs the character's full magic capabilities. I mean, what do you mean by losing magic eggs? It just prolongs the character's full magic capabilities. Game is pretty generous with them anyway. Oh, I see what you mean. Because gangs that rival each other always ask what set you rep. Oh, I'm not hip enough for that. Justin, don't be silly. Hey, it's just an act. It's theater. A theatre. Because if you don't give them to Sue, you... Hey, what up, Can? Happy Thanksgiving to you, you old bastard. You old bastard. Hold on, wait, hold on. Chat. Because if you don't give them to Sue, you get to give the next character all of them immediately. Oh, so should I just not give them to Sue? Is that what you recommend? But Puffy Fire is GOAT. Aussie Old Adventures. No matter what, I can't remember those days. You bastards. I know you said brats, but I wanted to add some profanity here. Did you make yourself more ceviche? No, I made pho the other day, and it was great. Ah, hey, look, what a beautiful girl. I've never seen such a beauty before. Is she an actress from the big city? I could watch her all day long. But I've got to order something to stay here. If only I had money. Ah, what should I do? This is why I played through Redux. I don't feel conflicted about choice. I need to give Sue at least 3 mana eggs to have a chance. Oh, is Redux like a fan mod? Like a rebalance thing? Yay. Yeah. Nice. Coin, I guess we're... it's gotta be Tails. It's Tails, so I'll buy you something to eat. Oh, hell yeah, dude. What should I order? Puff. I don't know, Puffy. Puff. P. Diddy. Puff Daddy. I'm gonna call him Puff Daddy. Puff's name is Puff Daddy. Waitress! 1 slice of apple pie, please. Hey, no fair, you ordering. Alright, bye. Magic Pursue is kind of fun, mostly. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not trying to min-max too much here. I remember this game being, like, not terribly difficult. The only real recommendation is don't give her wind. I think I gave her one, didn't I? Oh, let me see. Bitch, you got magic yet? I forget. Yeah, I gave her heal. Water. Yeah, Wind is the only one that doesn't give her additional special abilities. And for an adventure, huh? Well, so you're sightseeing, right? No, we're not. I came here to become a true adventurer. Not the pawn shop, not house number 6. Oh, oops. Let me go back to the adventure place. Maybe they'll actually tell me what I need to fucking do. They said something about a password. You know where I get that? I could talk to everybody else in here. Oh, yeah. Oh, one more thing. If you ask for a password, oh, it's I'm Mr. Packin's servant. Oh, yup, got it. Okay. Mr. Packin. Pecan. My mother's letter is addressed to Mr. Goss. President's office is back there. Please be honest and polite with the president. Okay. So many people get stumped here. Well, I'm not used to like chit-chatting constantly and the back and forth, but it's my own impatience. Oh! I was just pressing A. Okay, password. This one. Ding dong. Bing bong! You can come in. Oh, yup. Oh, yup. He reminds me of that vulture from like Looney Tunes. The yup. Imagine if there was someone that was like, you're an adventurer, right? You definitely need this item. And they try to sending you an item, but they say it's going to be important on your adventure. But actually, they're just a scam artist trying to sell you junk. That happens. People do that. That's like a trope. I'm Mr. Packin, president of the Adventure Society. Oh, yup. What the fuck, dude? You need my help with something? You were the president? You must be joking. I thought Adventure Society president was Mr. Goss. Goss was my daddy. He died a long time ago. Now I'm the president. Oh, you really? I mean, so you are Justin. Don't forget to ask about joining. Jesus. Right. Well, since Mr. Goss is dead, I have no choice but to deal with this bozo, this idiot. Is that a Fina body pillow in the back? On the left of the screen? That looks like a Fina body pillow. I'm gonna pretend that's what that is. Anyway, we'd like to join the society. How do we do that? Our membership's already full. Oh, you gotta you gotta get some adventurers to lend you their adventurers pass. Oh, yup. Oh, you're the president then. Name every president ever. Now wait just a minute. Who are you? Look here, I've got a letter of introduction from my mother. My father was an adventurer. He knew Mr. Goss. So I see. So, thought this piece of paper would get you an adventurer's pass? I'm the one who decides who gets to have a pass. Oh, yup. Just toss that piece of garbage. I made some new adventurer's passes when I became the president. Oh, yup. Clever, huh? What is this? It's got Fina's picture on the cover and this kitschy pink color. Yeah, her picture looks horrible. Fina's on the cover because she's a cute babe. Oh, yup. Fina's our #1 adventurer. And she's my fiance. Oh, yup. I can't not do that. We're a really lovey-dovey couple and we're getting married soon. Oh, yup. You know what he reminds me of? This is sad, but you know that one dude who apparently thinks he's fucking Pokemon's like fiance? I feel like he's trolling, but I don't know. He looks like he could believe it. But that's what this guy reminds me of. Y'all don't know it, but Pokemon is not single. We're actually a couple. And we're engaged. Like that guy. No kidding, but why would Fina want to marry some clown like you? It has to be a troll. I don't know. If you look at his videos, he looks convinced. There's psychos out there. That's all I'm saying. What? Hey, that's rude. Now I'm never gonna let you join my adventure society. Oh, yup. Does Pokemon have tight security? I like to imagine. Don't act so big, dude. You're just my servant. Oh, yup. What? Your servant? Since when did I become your fucking servant? Just before you came in here. Remember, you said I'm Mr. Packin's servant. Oh, yup. So there. Pokemon is his girlfriend. She just doesn't know it yet. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's terrifying. That was a terrifying thought, man. Yeah, but I'm never gonna let rude people like you into my adventure society. Now go home. Oh, yep. Wow, she looks like we hit a snag here. Forget the adventure society. I can go on an adventure by myself. Yeah, I don't need your fucking permission. All right, I'm gonna go for it. Fuck you. Sigh. I didn't know the adventure society had a new president. If she does and her address is kept secret, then it might not be a troll, because someone convinced of that would likely make dangerous moves sooner or later. Yeah, I know. It's out there. Pokemon is the most mid woman to ever convince Sims she's hot. Cool. We're not even talking about that. We're just saying there's psychos out there. But anyway, why would Fina get engaged to someone like him? What do you think, Sue? Well, it's hard to understand, but I think Fina's got bad taste. Even so, we don't have other plans. Let's go see Fina at her house, huh? I'm sure she'd at least lend us a map. Get there, we just have to leave New Parm and take the Merrill Road. Come on, Justin, let's go. Got a New Parm. Let's get the fuck on out of here. Oh, I keep pressing the map button from like Grandia 1. I mean 2. I really can't wait to get to Grandia 2. Milking Sims has been a big market in the 2020s. Yeah. I mean, if I could just like show my cleavage online and fucking make bank while playing video games, I would. I do it too. See? He gets it. Merrill Road. Ah, motherfucker! I think it's got no point. It's getting harder to do now, though, if you're not already in it. Yeah, it's a tough market now. Which is why you have to start with OF. If Sue was sewing and she hurt her finger, do you think Sue would sue the owner of the sewing company that sells items to sew with? A tongue twister. Well, dude, I could barely read. That got me. So you could imagine sewing, yeah. So could you imagine showing your cheeks for $5 on OF and no one cares? Yeah, that's rough. Sewing. He's using speech to text, I think, which frankly I hate, but it is what it is. Ooh, blocked that.
What a cinch.
Why not? Appears. That's a good name for a Pokemon. I think that most of them, don't statistics show that only 5% of the models make more than $20 a month or something? Yeah, it's something crazy like that. Ah, no! Wait, that's not an ambush? Oh, all right. Any market can become oversaturated. It's more embarrassing than trying to make it as a rapper when a woman tries to do OF and fail at it. Now she's broke and her neighbors have seen her ass. Ah, motherfucker! Better than I thought. Nah, no one's seen her ass, that's the thing. The average OnlyFans creator earns about 150 to 180 per month, though this varies widely based on factors like content and audience size, according to Google. No, I believe it. But that 1%, they probably make, what, millions? Spreading your cheeks on OF makes more than I make on Twitch, right? So it's only profit, if, you know, at that point. You gotta diversify. Plus, I doubt they do just OnlyFans. They're probably like Instagram models or something with like brand deals and shit. I think that's where a lot of the money comes from too. No! Am I poisoned? Am I poisoned? Oh, shit. Actually, I'm just gonna tough it out because I think I heal from poison out of battle. So I hope I do. I think I do. The secret is to pull a Lil Tay where she got famous before 18. And then made an OF at 18, you'll make 1 mil. Is Lil Tay the little, like the little Asian one? Like she was like, look at you losers, I got my money, look, this is my Ferrari. And she's like 11 or some shit. Last time I heard of her, I think she faked her death or something like that. I heard she didn't even show anything. All the pros got PG-13 content element. See, that's hilarious. I respect that. Because not only is it like, it's fucking weird to have a countdown to your 18th birthday so you can drop an OF, you know? It's fucking weird. So getting all their money and not even showing anything, that's a flex. That's awesome. I thought she was Australian or something. She's Asian? I think she's Asian. If it's the, are we talking about the same person? Like, is that Lil Tay, the one I'm talking about? The, hey, you broke bitches, take a look at my Bugatti. I've only seen pictures of her face when the other thing was made news. I didn't know anything about her. I didn't even know she made OF. It's funny. Problem with OFs being oversaturated and normalized, niche content becomes sought content. I don't think titties is niche. Yeah, that's her. Oh, okay. That's funny though. Making an OF and not showing anything and still making a mill? Hell yeah. T's are not niche, so hey. Let's do it. I like how I'm poisoned, but I haven't really lost any HP to poison. Hold on. How much do the cubes go for? Hold on. Shit. Justin, no! Okay, there's that damage. I just can't imagine paying a monthly sub for one chick's nudes. That's wild to me. So much free porn. Yeah, I understand. Maybe it's like, I don't know. Like maybe it's like, it's not just seeking out titty. It's seeking out those specific titties. Maybe that's the mentality behind it, you know? Probably. Just playing devil's advocate here. Oh shit, I didn't even see that. Lil made like 3 mil. Dude, that's awesome. Developing one-itis? What is that? For someone you don't even know IRL is extra sad. No, I feel it. I feel it. One of these nuts. I don't know. These cute motherfuckers. So get down. It's going for Justin. Well, the other one. I was going for her. So you got this. You got this. Fuck him up.
All right, we won.
For some reason, it walked to Sue, but yeah, Justin was highlighted. That panicked. I mean, we're fine. We're fine. I would like, I don't, actually, let me check the inventory. I don't know if I have the cure poison or not. Items. Yep, antidote. There we go. he does have it. I keep forgetting that it's like Dragon Quest where they each have their own like item bag rather than like a pool. 2 is so much better. But this is cute. This is a very sweet ass game, you know? Yas. I'm a Dragon Quest stan, but I hate individual item packs. No, I hate it too. Honestly, this is the only other game aside from Dragon Quest that I've ever experienced that with. It's a mechanic. Yeah, it is. Bad one. Uh-oh, he's digging. Digging you. Oh shit, I should have targeted. Oh, I did. Yeah, just block it, bruh. Just block it, bruh. Oh, damn it. That was a useless block then. In the hard mode mod, I think it works pretty well for balancing purposes. I mean, yeah, it's clear for balance and stuff, but it's inconvenient and I don't like it.
All right, we won.
That's why they dropped it in the sequels. Wait, did I just get ambushed by accident? Okay. Oh, cool. Oh yeah, it's hella inconvenient. Yeah, it is. Get rid of it! It sucks! Fuck, it sucks! It's a top tier rant right there. Don't you touch my soup! Yeah! Yeah! He's like,
all right, we won.
Oh shit. Can't wait for 2. Like honestly, like I like this one. Don't get me wrong. I was so inspired when I finished this game that I actually made like a whole ass art. I made an art for this game. But two's better. Like my main motivation for finishing this is to get to 2. And yeah, it sounds like Real Hardware is winning. I'll probably stream the actual Dreamcast version. Maybe I'll make a poll.
All right, we won.
It'll be HD, original Dreamcast, or I don't care. This guy. Hey, what up, B90? DJ Press. Merry Christmas, brother. Happy Christmas. I got a poll for you. Nice. It's more of a stump, but what's up, my boy? How you guys doing? How's everybody? Dang, you guys just all hopped in. Welcome in. You get magic. Just like magic. What's up, B90? Well, shit, fine, I can leave. No, what's up, dude? I said, happy Christmas. What's up, DJ? How you doing? Don't leave. You sit the fuck down. I just got a little overwhelmed is all. All my friends are here. Watch him actually leave. Don't leave me. Getting all overwhelmed and shit, like the tism triggering. I was actually just talking to a friend about that. I think it's pretty crazy how like everybody's autistic now. I called it autistic appropriation. Just got back from dropping the kid at her friend's next town. Nice. How long of a trip was that? I'd be like, why can't you have friends closer, huh? Like, why can't, or maybe they're best friends and they moved, I'm guessing. Or you moved. Forever? Wait, what do you mean forever? I'm thankful for being able to leave my kids at a stranger's house. I'm thankful for the Grandia series. I'm thankful for... Are they strangers though? No, it sounds like they're friends. 30 minutes each way? Oh. Yeah, technically we have that too, with like Henderson or even Boulder City. I was watching this documentary about this guy with autism that the police thought killed his grandfather and his mother. Did he do it? Have they proved it? I just want. Oh. Shit, I don't know. They're strangers to me. I suspect all autists of that. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, I get it. It's just like as they're able to scan and detect more, you know, they're like, oh, you know what? Technically, this qualifies as part of the spectrum. But like, I just know for a fact, like a lot of them is like self-diagnosed. And it's weird to me. How about you just take accountability for being weird? It's like girls that blame them being a bitch on like Saturn or whatever. Same with ADD and ADHD. Yeah, like I'm sure, you know, there's genuine cases out there. It's just, I call it like TikTok-tistic, where it's just like they listen to some reel and then they're just like, oh, that's me. I'm on the spectrum. Bro, I hate when people put self-diagnosed in the... Oh, they put it in their bio? Oh, that's fucking worse. If you self-diagnose, does that count as malpractice and impersonating a doctor? Honestly, if you're operating on the premise that like that is the case, then maybe. Like, ultimately, you're not hurting anybody but yourself, but I don't know. Weird. Dog, you're not self-diagnosed. You're just a fucking stupid. You can't sue yourself and you can't commit malpractice if you're not a doctor. Hey, good point. Are you a lawyer? So this is Fina's house, eh? I like they just barge in. Looks like a really well-built house. I wonder if she built it herself. Cool! This furniture looks like it was handmade by Fina. I'd like her to show me around here. Go through her shit. Oh, I know what to do. I'm gonna save. Then it'd be gross. Actually, let me recover first. I wonder what I have to do with the big underwear that's floating right there. Here, which button is sniff? Barge in there like, nice house, nigga. For real. Nice place, nigga. Fuck your couch. But hey, with medical bills they have in America, I don't blame people for self-diagnosing. Dude, you ain't kidding. Insurance is such a fucking scam. Fuck your couch. Whoa, aren't they kids? Yeah. Well, I looked it up. Sue is like 8 or some shit. Justin is 14. And I think Fina's 15. Nice. Hey, ya boy. Redeem the new one. I've heard of cases where they charge people with insurance like 10 times more. Ugh. Penguin, where are you? You said over in America. Are you a British? I'm Aussie. Nice. Cool. I imagine you guys are just like the Predator. You just like open up like these two things, pour goo on the wound and like stab yourself. You renamed the drop? I did. I was adjusting some stuff when I added a new one. Do you ever put another shrimp on the Barbie? Yeah, do you? And has a dingo ever eaten your baby? No, nothing quite like that. I know you guys have like spider season, right? And no, we call them prawns, not shrimp. Hey, that reminds me, what's the name of the prawn from Muppets? One of my favorite lines is when he gets offended when he gets called a shrimp. He's like, hey, I'm not a shrimp. I'm a prawn. I think it was like Muppets in Space or some shit. I break my wrist. I'm like, well, I self-diagnosed myself as okay. Right? What's the new one? Is it not there? It should be called Quantum. This was a request that I couldn't help but actually do. Look, Justin. Oh, how cute. I'd like to have one of those. Sue, don't go around touching stuff. Fina might get mad at you. Oh, Sue gets it. These are panties. Venus panties taken. Oh, Justin Sue, you've come to visit. There you go.
I'm retarded?
Oh shit, I came. Thank you. I'm so glad you came, and so soon too. We all have that problem. Oh, I was making that. Oh, were you really? Dry told me you wouldn't do it. I can give you the file if you want, or you think you could probably do better. Nice. Yeah, Dry mentioned it, and he was like, oh, he won't do it? I was like, remind me. I'll do it. I'm so glad you came, and so soon too. Really? I've never been met with a happy response from that. It's all good. Huh? What? I mean, it's just that, well, Sue? Hi, Fina. Justin, what have you got in your hand? Oh, just your underwear. Oh, Justin, what are you doing? Those are mine. He's like, wait. Here you go. Sorry. Oh dear. I usually don't leave this place in such a mess. I usually hear, thank God it's over afterwards. Nice. I usually just cry and apologize. No, it's fine, Fina, really. Right? Those are like granny panties. You know what's funny? Those panties look like more clothing that she's actually wearing right now. They're clean anyway. Ah, shame. What's wrong with you two? You're both blushing. I was just showing him something, that's all. Well, hey, either you hungry? Let's have something to eat. That was delicious. I hadn't expected you to be such an accomplished cook. This mint tea is really good. Seems like Fina can do everything. Yeah, but Fina, you're living here all by yourself, right? Don't you get lonely sometimes? Well, I guess so, but I would never be lonely if you lived here too, Justin. Damn. Justin's gonna hit that for show. They don't do the thing like they do in anime where they get caught doing something perverted and their nose bleeds. I'm actually surprised they didn't go that route. I don't know. I'm starting to get the feeling she was into him taking her panties. Goku response. Or Gohan. Or no, that'd be Roshi. I think Roshi's the one that usually does the bah! And then his nose bleeds. What is that trope too? Is it like a blood pressure thing? I don't get it. Still, okay, I guess so. I'm just kidding, just kidding. Justin, you thought I was serious? I'm pretty sure Grandpa Gohan did it. Yeah. In all 2 episodes he was in. You mean Jackie Chun? That's what they called him, right? I was serious. Nah. Thought you were probably joking. Still, I liked your answer. Damn right you do. Because blood is rushing and a PG way of saying they have a boner. Oh, very nice, very nice. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. My first time smoking a turkey. I get texts through my browser, so that's what I'm checking out. The image is loading. Load faster, god damn it. Anyway, yeah, that makes sense. See, I thought it was something like that, like a blood pressure, like yeah, I guess boner. I like that. That's a good one. So, what is it you want to talk about, Justin? May I borrow your new world map? Are you engaged to Packin? Macan? Won't you go on an adventure with us? Oh please, oh please, oh please go on an adventure with us. Fina, why don't you come adventuring with us to search for the legendary Angelo? You said it was in the Salt Ruins on the continent of Messina, right? It would be incredible if the ancient ruins really did work. They do work. They do, Fina. A girl named Liette told me so, and she told us to head for Liette. Alent. God damn it. If anyone has watched One Piece, it becomes a freaking plot point. Back in Fishman Island, where Sanji almost died. I've never seen One Piece. It looks like such a daunting task at this point. I'm probably gonna wait for the Netflix one. It's like, the best way I can explain it is it sounds like One Piece Brotherhood, where it's just gonna like follow the manga pacing and all that. Yeah, I got really annoyed. Oh, you guys are all One Piece fans? Netflix live adaptation is not the same. I'm not talking about the live the live action adaptation. They're doing a new animated series from the beginning with new animation. I think they're new re-recording. The remake, yeah, basically. And it's supposed to follow the manga a lot closer, which could be a good thing. Cause like, is it one of those shows like Dragon Ball where it has like the best filler? I love Dragon Ball Z filler. Yeah, who knows when they'll catch up. And that'll catch up. Well, isn't the manga supposed to be ending? Didn't they announce the end of the manga, or am I tripping? Really? Is it true that the Spirit Stone is real? I thought Justin was dreaming. But that's great. That's quite a discovery. Not much filler. Not much actual filler in One Piece, just slow down pacing mostly. There's also a fan-made One Piece that halves the episodes, maybe in like 3 to 5 years. Nice. So Justin, is that all you wanted to ask? Are you engaged? That reminds me, the President Packin said something really weird. He said you and he are engaged? No, really? Engaged? That's Packin for you. Spreading nonsense like that. Fake news! No matter what I said, Packin just wouldn't listen to me. What a nuisance. That's why I came here right away. I didn't want to run into Packin. I really wanted to show you around. Shucks. Now I understand. I thought he was kind of strange. Now I get it, huh, Justin? So Justin, is that all you want to ask? Yeah, borrow your world map. I wanted to go to the Dom Ruins. Would it be okay if I borrowed your map to the New World? Didn't you join the Adventure Society? They should give you an adventures map when you join. The Adventure Society? Never! That dude is no adventurer. He's just a lousy tour guide. That president is blabbering idiot. How do fool like him get to be president of the Adventure Society? Fina, you're different, right? Fina, you're not like other girls. You're not like other adventurers. Still, I'm at a loss. The Adventure Society rules say I'm not supposed to lend the Adventurers map to non-members. Also, if I lend my map to you, Justin, I can't continue with my own work. Anyway, I'm sure some secrets of the Angelo are hidden in the Dom Ruins. It is in the end game where the show is concerned, but there looks to be a lot to deal with story-wise remaining. Okay. It would be idiotic for the show to end before the manga at this point, right? So come with us to find them, Fina. Thank you for inviting me, Justin. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, Cash Cow. How you doing, buddy? Dude, whatever we ate, like, messed my stomach up this morning. I think it was the rolled tacos and all that beer. That shit's weird, man. Anime is getting slow to a snail's pace. I think someone said it's like 25, 30 episodes a year now. That's good, though. Actually, I did hear that. I heard that they're releasing episodes less frequently. About to go to sleep. Ha 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 ha. I took a Pepto. Nice. I don't have any, but I'm all better now. And thanks for having me over for Wasted Wednesday. It was very nice of you. Also, to you, buddy. That shit. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me, Justin. I can't say, or I just can't. I'm afraid. The Adventure Society rules say I'm not allowed to go there. I'm not allowed to go. Really now, Fina? All I hear from you is rules, rules, rules. You are like the other adventurers, and just goes away, running, crying. Should there be any places, anywhere, where adventurers can't go? Become a pirate with us, Fina, right? Right? Become a slaughtering psychopath like my mother. Good night, Cash Cow. That's funny. You jive, turkey. No more rules. Yeah, no more rules. Justin, don't confuse pros with amateurs. Pros must follow the rules. That is the way it is for us pros. The adventurer breaks the rules, his pass gets taken away, and he's out. Well, you're not a he. You're a she. Justin, you must understand how hard it would be for an adventurer to be unable to go anywhere on any adventures. Why do you need permission? Just go on the adventure. So, I need to hold on to this pass. That's where you're wrong, bitch. No adventures without a pass. No choice of destination without an okay. What kind of adventure is that? That's what I'm saying. I'm Spartacus. No one decides where the wind blows. Only the wind can determine that. A true adventurer is like the wind. Notice me, Senpai Fina. Yeah, he's like, ooh. All things considered, Justin does become more of a criminal to the army than her mother ever was. You're right. No, actually, you're right. Why are you so quiet now, Fina? Speak up, bitch! You're not like those nerds in the Adventure Society, are you, Fina? You're just chicken. She's like, nobody calls me a a chicken! Huh? What's that music? Wait, is it diegetic? Is the music diegetic? My dearest Fina, I've come for you. I heard someone say, oh, yup. Justin, that voice. Wait here, Justin. I'll take a look outside. Yeah! Oh, jeez. Justin, that was Fina. Now, let me save. Two's so good, I can't wait. Thank you. Huh? Where's Fina? Fina! Fina! Go home, Packin. I told you never come here again, remember? This is the Pokimane stalker. This is the guy who thinks he's married to Pokimane. This is him. Ah, but tonight is the night when our hearts will be united. Oh, yeah, yeah. I imagine he's like shirtless, singing like some like R. Kelly, not R. Kelly. I went to say, well, I guess that does work. But Usher. I was thinking like Usher songs. Like that one scene in Boondocks. Once you and I are married, Fina, we can wash our underwear together as a couple. Oh, yeah, yeah. Man, I'm gonna use that as a pickup line. Like, yo. Wash our underwear together. Didn't she just buy herself an engagement ring? Fucking psycho. Wait. Oh. Go wash your own underwear. I have no intention of marrying you. How many times must I tell you? I imagine he's wearing Pokimane's merch. Yeah, probably, dude. Probably. Don't be so shy. Oh, yeah. Some bullshit about loving yourself. Wait, are you talking about Pokimane? Did Pokimane buy herself an engagement ring? No, that's what she's telling. She probably is fucking engaged. Dude, what if she was engaged to that guy? That would be like the best. That'd be funny. Like, I don't give a shit about these people or their lives, but for the lore, that would be awesome. Don't be so shy. Oh, yeah. I know that you're really crazy about me, Fina. Oh, yeah. Anyway, if you don't marry me, I'm gonna take away your adventures past. So there. Oh, yeah. And if I do that, you can't go on any more adventures. Oh, yep. Packin'. That should have nothing to do with whether or not we get married. Packin', you're such a sleazebag. Fina just plain hates your guts. Can't you get that into your head? Yeah, dude. Fuck off, creep. But I'm a creep. I'm a weirdo. Yup. Me? I'm just a friend, I suppose. But you say he's just a friend. No, wait a minute. Actually, Justin is my fiance. We're getting married. Married? Huh? Fina? Play along, idiot. Look, we gotta coordinate our stories. If we don't, we'll never get Packin to give up, will we? I'm in love with him, Packin. He proposed to me a year ago, so I'm afraid I can't marry you. Yeah, she's right. Keep your paws off my girl. It's like, that's my bitch. You may not like it, but Packin is a high-value male, brimming with self-confidence. He has followers, owner of a profitable business, well-known in the town, and even has an impersonator. I guess that's fair, right? That is a good point. By today's definition, he is a high-value male. That's too bad, my dear Fina. You've been claimed by that silly boy. What a world we live in, for real. You know what? I'll help you. Oh, yup. This is the kind of thing I have my bodyguard along for. Oh, yup. Master Chang, come on. Fuck. Hi-ya! Oh, hell yeah. Oh, this is the best. Oh, dude, I fucking love this. Yeah, it's been too long. This is time for a replay. Hi-ya! It's just crazy, the tonal difference between this game and the sequel. Justin! Don't let the story of politeness stalker distract from the fact that she keeps saying the N-word and did damage to her career. Oh yeah, she did. She said it the cool way. The stalker might be a strategic move to get people back on board with her Pokimane stalker. I know what you meant. That's funny though. That is right. There was like a compilation of her like dropping the N-word, but like it's not like she said it like, hey, this, you know, she was like, hey, you know, Niggas be tripping. That's basically how I think she was using it. And like I said, I'm not the arbiter of that word. I just don't care.
What's up, my Grandia?
Hey, Lemon Baby. What's good, man? Dude, I was really enjoying your stream, by the way. Man, I don't pay attention to any drama on Twitch unless it involves them being kicked off Twitch for good. Yeah. Like, I don't really either. Like, I don't really watch these people, but like, it's cool little spicy stories, you know? I'm the arbiter of that word, and I say it's allowed. There you go, Jay. Jay's the arbiter. He gave us permission. All right, Justin, you came too. You came too? Like T-O-O. Oh, did that guy Chang beat me up? Yeah, he fucking hit a 15-year-old in the face. No, he's 14. Sue, where's Fina? Those guys took her with them. They said they're gonna have a wedding. So, Justin, what should we do? Let's go get that bitch. I got it, Sue. We're gonna save Fina. I won't let Packin have his way. That's just what I was thinking. Let's go. We're off to New Palm. Dude, the way they do these like announcements, it really does remind me of Pim from Smiling Friends. I just imagine like, we're off to New Palm. Thanks. I'm gonna keep playing. I just need a break to eat and get some beverages and watch my stream, hopefully. Seven hours. I'm probably at like the 5-hour mark because I'd be talking. Like, streaming definitely adds at least like, I'd say like a 15% to like a runtime, you know? Like I am right now? Exactly. Wait, where do I go? Let me out. Oh, there's a break. Is it this way? Get the fuck out! Yeah, it's this way. Let's go get that bitch! Smiling Friends is top tier. Smiling Friends is the shit. Wait. Am I going the wrong way? Wait, do I go to Merrill Road? They didn't take her to New Palm, did they? Oh, yeah, we're going to New Palm. Let's go to the Adventure Society place. Give me my fiance. Oh, they're not here. Where are they? Oh yeah, they're at the chapel. That's right. I'd marry a donkey. I keep getting an ad for a new Avatar movie. I want to see it. I like Avatar. Like, don't get me wrong. Derivative as shit. But I fucks with it. Like, I was there from the beginning. I was there at like the launch. The premiere in 3D. I saw both in 3D. Best comedy cartoon I've seen in a while. Oh shit, you're watching it too, Lemon? Hell yeah, dude. It's so good. Authorized personnel only. Let me the fuck in. So, it is only fitting that Packin should marry our beloved Fina. Should we like some movie? What the fuck? First of all, it's a show. Stupid. We're talking Smiling Friends? I can't tell. I'm in an ad. Yeah, Smiling Friends. The gap between movies is a bit much. Oh, we're talking about Avatar. My bad. I forgot the Avatar movie was coming out. Do you ever like some movie? What the fuck? Yeah. I don't know, man. I like fun. It's okay. It's okay. Jay, it's okay. You just switch your brain off and look at the pretty colors and go, it's okay. Avatar fun? LMAO. You're such a fucking hater, dude. Yeah, the time period between the third and second is a bit more fine. But the first movie was so long ago. Yeah. Well, it's funny because it was supposed to launch a franchise back then. I don't know why it was put on like ice. But now I think when 2 was coming out, they said they actually like recorded up to 4 already at that point. I think they want 5 of these. Did you watch the Chainsaw movie? No, that's what I call fun. I haven't seen it yet. Honestly, I'm really sad I missed it when it was in theaters. I should have seen that, but maybe I'll have a movie night. Is it available on digital yet? Avatar is basically Pocahontas with blue space monkeys. Yeah, it's Pocahontas, Dances with Wolves, and cool. Ferngully. Yeah, Ferngully. That's the one. No idea. Ferngully. Yeah, but I fuck with all those. So, you know, I like Pocahontas. I like Dances with Wolves, and you know what? I like Ferngully. Story does feel pretty dry, but hey, the visuals are pretty. Yeah, dude. That's the thing. It's just like the story is just the vehicle for the pretty graphics. The movies are just tech demos. You know, they're really dope tech demos with amazing soundtracks and good performances and 3D. I saw it in D-Box. That was fun. Like the mechs were walking by and I'm like, like it felt like they were here. Joey's the kind of dude that just scrolls through AI TikToks for hours because they're pretty. Yeah, so I just go watch humans beat up blue people. yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's right. Lemon watches it rooting for the bad guys, which I love. That's awesome. He came up with so many ways to help the society. Pack is quite a man. Can I sneak in the back? Oh, I can. Blue people win though. Yeah, he's just watching the bad guys lose all the time. It's like being a Raiders fan. Blue aliens are retarded. You're retarded. See? Look at this. I have evidence. I have evidence that you're retarded. Let me find it. Fuck! My joke's ruined! Where the fuck did I put it? Maybe it cost 500? There we go. See? Look at that. You! There's undeniable evidence. This is court. I'll see you in court. The journey is boring and derivative. Yeah, but it looks cool, okay? Like how Lemon said, dinosaur go roar. Not Lemon, that was Cyber. But it's okay. To each their own. You're not a fan, that's okay. Actually, yeah, the first movie is mostly Orpa human versus aliens. Yeah. Like the plot's paper thin. Second movie's more of that, but army humans moved in. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. But it's fun, okay? I like James Cameron's like space cowboy dudes, you know, like they all have like the bandanas and the tank tops and like the Mexican one for some reason, you know. I like James Cameron's tropes. Lead actor is a literal charisma vacuum, probably the most boring brick wall of a person that Hollywood ever tried to make a thing. He must have the world's nicest and tightest asshole or something. You're just mad yours isn't as tight. But it's okay. Your asshole could be just as tight if you wanted.
What a cinch.
Army human should provide more conflicting morals because army human meant to be more for altruistic purposes, but still greedy in a sense for human survival and just corporate greed. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm acknowledging these aren't deep movies by any stretch of the imagination. They got pretty colors. Like I said, where are they? Fuck. The keys, you know, jiggle, 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 and I'm like, it's like the Transformers movies, except Transformers 1. That was like actually a good movie. And when I say one, I mean the new animated one. Probably what they'll do for movie 4. Yeah, probably. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the third one or the fourth one is where they'll be like, guys, let's mix it up. Guys, they swim now. They're on fire now? They're on fire now. I never saw the second, not going to see the third. Yeah, that's fine. Not sure what they'll do for movie 3, if they'll just introduce a new corp. Well, I think they're gonna introduce another tribe or something. I actually don't know. I saw like that first trailer. It was all visual and no plot. I mean, I'm already down.
What a cinch.
I'm gonna see it regardless. Like, I'll go in as blind as possible. Because one of the things I do hate is like nowadays, like trailers give away fucking everything. Like one of my favorite trailers of all time is for Endgame, Avengers Endgame. And that's mostly because it was all hype and no plot, you know? First movie, perfect tree. Second movie, protect tree, protect whale. Yeah, that's funny. They could become morally gray, but that would get away from the message of who went bad, nature good message. Yeah. If I want a movie about protecting whales, I'm watching Star Trek 4. Great movie. Star Trek 4 is great. What's the one? Is it 4? Or is it 3? Search for Spock when they're like, what would God need with the starship? I like that line. How is that the woman aliens in Avatar wear rags for clothes, but their titties never pop out? That's the magic of editing and animation. I'm sure they do probably pop out. I just, you know, like they would. But I don't think that's their focus. But let's be real, Avatar is just feel for people who are into blue alien people. I mean, with everything, the weirdos will climb out of the woodworks for sure. Why they even have titties? Aren't mammals? They aren't mammals, I don't think. I think technically they are mammals. They give live birth. A humanoid. I think they're mammals. It's not like they lay eggs. Oops, caps, lol. Double-sided tape. Wait, what? Oh, the boobs. Can't they breathe underwater in the second? No, they hold their breath. They can hold their breath, that's what it is. If the aliens look humanoid at all, it's gonna get the Rule 34. Dude, honestly, dude, people are so fucking weird. That probably doesn't even have to be a goddamn requirement anymore. I'm sure they'll look at like those fucking squid things from Galaxy Quest and be like, yo. Hear me out. I wonder if I have to do that crank again. No, that's just wishful thinking. People will do it anyway. Yeah, exactly. They'll look at the fucking Lovecraftian monsters and be like, yo. Don't mind if I do. Anime monster girls are a thing after all. Oh yeah, I've seen you watch Monster Musume. I know exactly the kind of man you are. Then you play the fucking Dexter music. Squid, hear me out. 8 arms means 8 ways to be jerked. Great show. Dude, fucking, I still think the best thing you've ever shown me is probably Prison School. That shit is still the funniest anime I've ever seen. Like no other anime had me, you know, working my abs out from laughing so fucking hard. I should finish Prison School. Yeah, you should. That's like required viewing, dude. Now, is this an ambush on me or them? I can't tell anymore. It's very inconsistent. There are times where I feel like, oh, they got me, and I'm like, I have initiative. Like, what? What? Uh-oh. Just finish him. Prison School, I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard that name since 2017. Yeah, I've never laughed that hard at any other show. Yeah, dude, like, the only other, like, shows that maybe got me, like, on that level would be, like, fucking the IT Crowd or something, you know? But as far as anime goes, it is 100% the funniest anime I've ever seen. Golden Boy too. Golden Boy is awesome. But I still think I like Prison School more. Fire Away. Nice. But yeah, no, dude, I adore both. But Prison School, it got me. Golden Boy's tied.
All right, we won.
Steady, 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 steady. Jay, have you seen Prison or damn, I would suck a dick for a DQ Blizzard right now. You don't have to suck a dick, go get one. Oh shit, how do I get down there? How do I get down there? I want to get down there. I want that egg. Give me the egg. Ghost Story's dub is pretty funny for, yeah, it is. It is. It's really damn good, actually. I think methinks I have to. That one clip of the spitting is what made me look for gold. Yeah, dude, same. Cause like, oh, there's that, and then oh, think about JoJo. But no, I remember you showed me that, and I thought it was hilarious. And then I ended up seeing that in the episode, and I was like, oh, this is where it's from, you know? Hold on, I forgot to hit the switch. Which I think there was a switch over here. Let me check. Yeah, let's do it. I'll be back, egg. You might need to hit the other switch first. Okay. Not this one? Swimming pool one's great too. Yeah, it is. When you like crashes in there. Actually, not working on Saturday night. Over tomorrow night. I should at least start soon. Oh, I forgot about that. Forgot about that. All right, I'll do the other one first. Oh, to get in here, right? Because I want to get that egg if possible. If not, it's okay. I'm not trying to go for a perfection run here. I'm trying to get through this game as quick as possible so I can play Grandia 2. Oh, there's the fence. There's like a gate. Because if you do this one, the other one won't block water at all. Okay. So do this one first. Oh, let me kill this guy. Get back here! Debate me, coward! That's my shake your hand! Yeah, okay, I'll do this one. Thanks, dude. Oh. Nice. I saved you 2-3 minutes of by backseating. Well, I usually don't go for backseating, but like within reason, you know, something like this, sure, because it's not my first playthrough. Typically, I like to ask, but you've been writing that line of like perfect backseating. And actually, I've literally been asking, so there's that too. So wait, I'm tripping. Did I do this one yet? I don't think I did. I was like, let me do this first. Oh, I see what you mean. So I'll go this way. There's anything over here? I'm just checking. And then I'll do the other one. You right, you right. Ah, oh, sick. Okay, yeah. Here, I'll pull the switch, then I'll get down here, and then I'll start killing shit. Because it'll empty even more. Oh, shit! You smart, big brain. This guy I was playing Battlefield 6 with was drunk backseating me on how to drive the Bradley. The most annoying thing ever, lol. Yeah, that sounds frustrating as hell. Wait, what was he saying? It's like, bro, you gotta fucking, no, dude, no. And you're probably doing fine, right? Also, wait, aren't you fucking a literal, you were an actual tank operator. Did you call him the N-word? That'll probably deter him. It's bulletproof. But yeah, that's funny. Yep, exactly. Yeah, dude. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Lemon Wedges is like an actual like tank driver operator. So you put some spec on him, okay? That's awesome. Did you tell him? You're like, dude, I do this for a living. We're like a tank operator. Yeah, and that was before he joined the army. It's like an ROTC thing. I think that got him like actually at a higher position when he joined. They're like, oh shit, dude, your tank's Seen some action. All right, you're in. You're private now. You're an officer. You're collecting the egg though, right? Of course, of course. I'm just, I don't know this map, but I'm looking for the egg. I'm just exploring while I can. I think it's in the other area. Private is at the bottom. Just like Lemon. Oh! I tried not appeal to authority, but I had to in the end. Next battle, I also have to heal. I'm gonna use the rah if I have enough. Iron Mace. Let's see. Also, just so you know, I'm like low-key a little lost, but it's okay. I'm browsing. I'm looking around. I just want to make sure I didn't come from the bottom. Okay. Tanks are a lot slower. Wait. Can Lemon drive a tank, but when he drives a car in a game, he can't stop crashing? That's funny. How can Lemon drive a tank, but when he drives a car on a game, he can't stop crashing? Tanks are slower. Good answer. Okay. You don't have to be the #1 expert to not have to do that. Wait. What's up here? No. This is where I have to go, probably. That's the... Is that where I came from? Okay, sorry, yeah, this map is a little... But oh shit! What's in here? Oh shit, yo, Mr. White! You ever sit on top of a barrel and pretend you have a giant dick? Of course. Oh wait, let me recover for free. What's in here? Oh, nothing. Nothing! Nothing! Wait. Don't judge me! Look, oh, there it is. That's where I came from, and this is where I'm going. Your initiative. Damn right it is. Damn, dude, that merch thing is like fucking doing like overtime right now. I gotta change the frequency of that. Also, I've literally sold 3 things off of my fucking merch store. It's the Etsy's where it's at. Do you ever have the waifu body pillow with you inside the tank while driving? Sometimes when I read, because I know it's speech to text doing its best, but like sometimes it really does come across as like that. Do you ever have a dream that and you can do it, and if you want you can, and then you can, and if you have a... With my group, I'm the #1 expert. Nah, just Pornhub. No, I know more about tanks. I saw the Brad Pitt movie. That was a cool movie. We need more like war movies with a niche. I like how it was just like the tank guys, you know? That was a good ass movie. Do you need to upload a picture of your driver's license to get on there? That's the thing, right? Like, was it Texas? Didn't Texas straight up ban Pornhub? Some shit like that, right? I think Pornhub got banned, and then yeah, you need like to... That required ID. I don't know, I was on it today. I didn't. Just a VPN? Yeah, just a VPN. There's a bunch of states now. AZ started doing it too. Super gay. What's the reasoning behind it? I get it, you know, porn is bad for you, but I don't know. Banning it outright seems a little excessive. It's not banned. Protect the children. Why don't you parent your children? Just fucking. Yeah, it requires ID, and if the site doesn't want to add that capability, they just don't show for that state. That's why you just go to X videos, no ID required. Yeah, there's other sites out there. Pornhub, just the big one. I just watch Mama Counts OnlyFans. That's all I do.
All right, we won.
Just require the site asks for ID. Pornhub banned itself. Oh, that's funny. I only have to run like 2 sites being bitches about it, and I partake in a lot of porn. If you catch my meaning, I jerk off all the time. If you catch my drift. Oh, that's what I'm glad you clarified it. I wasn't really sure. I was just like nodding along just to pretend I knew what you were talking about. Thanks for clarifying, dude. Oh, Justin, you dick. Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it! Actually, has a better selection these days anyway. Yeah, dude. That egg. Yay! Penguin, you're the best. All right, let me get the fuck out of here. Just wait until the VPNs start being banned. No, actually, that's a thing. That is a thing. I read somewhere recently that I think some states are starting to ban VPNs. That's insane to me. Honestly, that I think that's unacceptable. You can take my porn, but you can't take my VPN. I'm going the right way. Is it this way? Oh, how the fuck do I go? Is it in here? No. Well, let me recover anyway. UK is trying to ban VPNs. I think states would struggle to justify it. I wonder when the egg will crack. I know, we'll see. We'll just have to see, but that's insane to me. Okay, this is where we can go in. It's got hype. Also, this is a big ass church. There's like a dungeon down there. Also, I'm gonna go pee and get one more beer. Be right back, y'all. I'm just passing by, but I saw that comment. Fuck you. Hey, when you stream Final Fantasy, I can give you this shit if you want. Just so you know. I have the Final Fantasy alerts too that I like. Fuck you. We're back. Hold on, I'm super curious about what you guys are talking about. Let me catch up on stream, or chat. All in the name of protecting the kids. I mean, fundamentally, I can't disagree with the logic. We require ID to access other adult items online, like gambling and other stuff. I can. Fuck kids. I don't care if they hurt their brains with porn. I was trying to ban social media for under 16. That I actually do like. I think, yeah, I kind of agree with that. I'm not too happy about the potential inconveniences. Hold on. Hey, Jake, give me your feedback on this. So I scaled it. I scaled this up a bit. Is it, would you say it's still too small? Giggity? Still too small? I'm trying to get the right scale here, you know what I mean? Oh, ads, damn it. Australia is a nanny state on crack. Sure, social media is bad for kids. It's not the government's right to get involved. Isn't it though? Doesn't things... If you find risks with stuff and like developmental fucking fuck-ups, shouldn't they regulate it? I think social media is awful. Still too small in my opinion, but I prefer maximizing game size over everything else. Okay, that's fair. Well, social media isn't inherently bad. No, it's not inherently bad. I think people are too young on it, you know? It depends on where you go. That's true. Yeah, there's certain parts, accounts, you know? Okay, thank you for the feedback. I'll adjust it some more. Because honestly, I like this setup. I like the alerts here. But if it's too small, you know? So I think I could do one more adjustment. I'll get rid of the buttons and stuff. I'll just scale it more. It'll honestly, it might match this. It might be a lot closer to this one. I think YouTube for under 16 seems a bit much, honestly. You think it's for social media though? That's just me. Other people probably like it. Well, I appreciate the feedback. I'm literally looking for feedback, so I appreciate you for giving it. Yeah, that's insane. It's on the list. Yeah, YouTube's a bit much. Okay. Uh-oh. Looks like they started already. See, this 40-hour game is gonna be like 60 because I keep talking. Do you, Packin, take Fina as your lawfully wedded wife? To love and to cherish in sickness and in health, for as long as you both shall live? Oh yeah! Oh yeah! You betcha! Oh, yeah, yeah. Now, if anyone objects to this wedding, let them speak now or forever hold their peace. What's going on here, Father? This isn't right. Let's see. When MySpace was big, we had it all, and Tom just wanted to be our friend, but we took him for granted. Twitch too. I figured 13 was already a good cutoff number. The problem with opening the door at all, once you accept the government deciding what can be available on the open web, they will constantly take away more and more over time. Best to keep them out of it. So, hey, Woo! It's the Woo coming through. How you doing, man? Wakanda forever. Wakanda. What's going on here, Father? This isn't right. That ain't right. And now the groom may kiss the bride and be forever united in holy... What? Kiss the bride? Okay, Fina. Here's where we kiss. I'll do the kissing. All you have to do is pucker up. Oh, he's supposed to go like he always does. Hey, it's okay. Oh, yup. I'll kiss you gently. Jesus Christ. Look, I'm holding back. Yup. That creep packet. I'm putting a stop to this right now. Yeah, fuck him up. Wakanda. There's a bit of a problem though. I think everyone can see that social media like TikTok is having a negative impact on young minds. This guy turning me on. Oh, I have to do it. Let's go, Sue. Is this the Pokemon simulator? So the ban is overreaching, but the problem is evident. I think it's a good way of putting it. I don't know. I feel like some level of regulation should be on there. Whether it be an age gap, supplying your ID, you know. I understand both thought processes here. The problem for parents, not the government. Yeah. Let go of Fina right now. If you get even one drop of your snot on her, I'll beat you to a pulp. Oh yeah. Yuck. Let Fina go packing, or I'll bust up this whole wedding. Just be a parent instead of relying on a nanny state. That's a good way. Was nanny state a term? I never heard that before. Yeah, but it seems like so many parents are failing. That's true. I don't know. It's a weird world we live in right now. Just chilling, streaming, GTA, trying to get that mansion. Oh, in GTA 5, there's a mansion. Is this like a limited time mansion? I've never played online before, or I did once technically, but I was just testing it out with a friend. That's right, Packin. A wedding should be a bride's dream come true. It's a shame. Oh, a sham, and we won't allow it. We won't allow it. I'm not gonna let you ruin my wedding. Master Chang, come get them. Come on. Imagine in Wisconsin? A mansion in Liberty City. Silly. I'm gonna come. Do not come. Do not come. Oh wait, hey Yvonne, remember the? Cause you'd be in jail. That was good. Yeah, they're putting matches in the game. Is it temporary? Kinda awesome. Ha! I invited Master Chang just in case something like this came up. Yup. Oh, it's you. I'm not letting you get me again. Yeah. Yeah, you literally beat up a kid. Bye! I love this. Fire missile weapons at all enemies? Well, there's only one enemy, so I think we're okay, but that's kind of dope. How much is that cost? 28? Goddamn! Nope, permanent. Okay, nice. That's good. I miss you, Woo. I haven't seen you much since, like, I think last time I was in one of your streams. I'm sorry, but you're playing through the Mafia games. Nice. If you kill this dude, he already tied up the babe for you, right? I'll take my prize. I believe you have my property, sir.
Face slash.
Yeah. Damn. How much do I have? Okay. So you can give her the V slash. I can play with her V gash. Ah, is that too vulgar? That's too much.
V slash.
Yeah. I've been busy with work a lot. Ah, same. I know the feeling. That's these guys. I was basically off for a month, and that's so unlike me. Yeah, I'm offended. Why do those butterflies sound so erotic? It kind of does. Now that you mention it. Oh damn, that fucker hits hard. Okay, actually, I think either this turn or next turn. Fuck him up! Next turn. All right, so we're getting hit. That's fine. Oh shit. Oh shit. Okay, we're good. Fuck him up. Kill him. Do it. I think Stu got the... Okay, no, it was Justin. Ah! It just explodes right in front of everybody.
Big win for us.
Let's hear me out. Those butterflies. Wow, what are you doing? Oh, you're messing up our wedding. You're messing up from the beginning. What kind of wedding is this anyway? You took Fina and forced her into it? Yeah. So what if I did? As president, I've got it right. Yup. Let's make a mod of this that adds constant swearing and gore. Dude, I would actually be down for gore. Because, like, it would be such a fucking, like, juxtaposition, I guess, between this and, because this game is cute as fuck. The game's adorable. And just adding, like, gore to it. Okay. Jesus Christ. He's like, okay, Fina. No wedding. No pass. So are you going to give it back? I'll forgive you if you change your mind now. So, dear Fina, come fly into my arms. Oh, yup. Fina, come on. Let's get going. Fina, come. Aha. She can't do it. Oh, yup. She knows that if she gives up that pass, she'll never have another adventure. Packin, here. Take your silly old adventurer's pass. I don't need it anymore. What are you saying? Yup. I finally remembered something. An adventure's as free as the wind. Fina. Way to go, Fina. How could I forget such a thing? We chose the adventurer's path to be free, like the wind and the clouds. No one decides where the wind blows. This pass cannot blind the soul of a true adventurer. Farewell. Tomorrow I'll be on with one with the wind. I said on. Only I will decide where to blow. This way. Oh, wait. She's 15. Never mind. Wah, my dear Fina. Thank you, Justin and Sue. You've rescued me. Yes, but now you're not a member of the Adventure Society anymore. He's like, fuck the Adventure Society. Dummy. I'm no longer who I was till today. So, let's go. All three of us. Nice. Did you just like fucking just hit the keyboard? Huh? What the? Hip hip hooray! Congratulations to the newlyweds. Hey, look at this. So young and innocent. They're so shy and so cute. What is this? What? It's backwards. Oh. If... Fuck you. Imagine if Joey can read. I hate you. This is a really cool picture though. I didn't type it that way. I have no idea how that happened. You just sneeze like just hit the keyboard. Or you're washing your hands and water gets on your phone and it just like starts typing shit for you. Look, they're made for each other. It's true. I'm so envious. I sure hope someday I'll have a beautiful bride like her. Huh? Hey, who are you? What happened to Mr. Packin? Pecan. I think it's Pacon. Huh? What? Well, what am I saying? I won't be a party pooper. This is a wedding, a joyous occasion. Time to celebrate. Yeah! Everybody go fook! Yeah, that's right. So let's wish them well to their new life. Yes! Why, don't they look good together? A lovely couple. Poof, poof, poof. I like that one. That's Ghostface, right? Yeah. Dude, I'm really stoked for the new Scream. Ha. Well, I can't believe it. What do we do, Fina? What do we do? We go fook. Well, let's get back to my house. It's embarrassing to stay here. Alright. That's what Justin would say. He's like, oh shit. Oh shit. Ha. That is so funny. Everyone knows. I didn't marry Packin, but they keep on partying anyway. You should have seen Justin's face. It was so funny. He looked so bewildered. Bow chicka wow wow, right? These children. It's okay. If Stephen King can write it, Game Arts can do it. Man, that was something. Well, you both must be tired, eh? Please make yourselves at home and rest here as long as you like, okay? So much has happened since that day when I finished setting up this tent. Did anyone see the video that Homeland Security posted where they were detaining immigrants, but they have the Pokemon? Oh, yeah, I saw that. So much has happened since that day when I finished setting up this tent. I remember the day I let a little lost sheep sleep in my bed with me, and when my tent was almost blown down. These nuts, amazing. This tent always gives me a warm welcome when I come back after a few days on an adventure. Tell me, Justin, how did you feel on the night before leaving on our adventure? Were you afraid? Huh? Afraid? Bitch, I ain't never scared. I was too excited to sleep. Okay, maybe I was a bit worried. I get the benefit of the doubt and say New Parm didn't know Fina was there against her will, but the implication that a less than 16-year-old can marry. Oh, dude, you're right. I mean, well, I think they've raised it since, but I remember hearing something like the age of consent in Japan is like 16. Something like that. Is that how, what's the, they have to be 18 to marry? I don't know how that works. I don't know Japanese law. That's pretty strange, eh? I mean, people must have had adventures long before this society was formed. I'd really like to see all those sides to be seen. Fina. Okay, enough for today. It's bedtime. Justin Sue, you'll be leaving early tomorrow, right? Kicking us out. Most of human history until like the last 50 years, it was super normal. Ah. Where'd Fina go? Hey, where's Fina? I wonder where she went. Yeah, me too. Fina! Fina! Oh wait, let me actually recover and then save. This is like 1900s kind of era. I'm pretty sure my grandma married at 15. Jeez. So is marrying your sibling. Y'all know Jay supports that too. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Good morning, Justin. Did you sleep well? No, that's not true. Only royalty got away with that. He he he. I want to start reading your ha-has just like I read these ha-has. Like the ha-ha-ha-ha. Good morning, Justin. Did you sleep well? Huh? Uh-oh. Whoa, I see. Explain all the royal families then. You see the lizard? There's a lizard on screen right now? The wind? No, I don't. Oh shit, I didn't get to read that. I was thinking about the wind a lot last night. What does the wind see? If we were flying like the wind, I wonder if the things that you see would be the same things I see. Dina. I like that grass effect. I love the wind. Okay. I hate sand. I've forgotten how this feels. Thanks for helping me remember. No problem, dude. Ah, you must not see it. It's on your Twitch chat at least. Wait, a lizard? What the fuck? What? Hold on, sorry. Let's go, Fina. So when do we leave? I'll catch up later. This is timed. Naturally, we're leaving right now. I wouldn't wait another second for an adventure! This feeling, this moment. It's on your Twitch chat at least. See a lizard. Well, Mullen, have you found the last piece? Okay, you think most of humanity to the last 50 years were European royal families and Alabama? The odd screen chat. Dude, I don't see a lizard. I see Jay's laugh, the lol. I see D's nuts. Yeah, no lizard, dude. Is this like a made you look thing? Also, even in royal lines with incest to protect their bloodline or whatever, actual sibling marriages were super rare. They'd be cousins and shit. Oh, but that makes it better. It's a BTTV emote, global one. Can you do it again? I honestly don't. I don't see a lizard. Also, God, I miss Luco, but yeah, we had this other dude in chat. He used to use those too. I mean, cousin is definitely better than sibling. Yeah, I get. Yeah, it's still gross, but I guess it's slightly less gross. Well, Mullen, have you found the last piece? Fortunately, not yet, sir. Cannot proceed with Operation Yggdrasil until you do. Find it, Mullen, and find it soon. Okay, father. Right now, implementing a plan in a forest near the Dom ruins. We will have good news if we succeed. Yes, it's possible. We will gain something. Fewer shared genes with so fewer abnormalities. Cool. Yes. All right. Yes, it's possible if we gain something. I'm expecting good news. Further down the line of cousin is better than sibling. Or you could just not fuck your family. So, shall we head to the Dom ruins? Has anyone forgotten anything? First, we have to cross over the Ringgold Mountains south of New Parm. The Dom ruins are in a desert over there. Oh, dude, I vaguely remember the desert too. Oh, all right. Let's go to the Dom ruins. What if your family's super hot? What if your cousin's Selma Hayek? Shit. These are the hard-hitting questions. This is like the Sphinx's riddle. Just to prove... Wait, but just prove this isn't a made you look thing. I swear to God, if I get rickrolled right now. Oh. A lizard? I didn't see it. It looks like somebody with a gun, like this, to me, kind of. No, I didn't see that. That sucks. A gun. I mean, isn't the issue with incest that it causes mutations in children? I'll be honest, I don't give a fuck if someone fucks their cousin if they don't make little mutants. Yeah, fuck your family. Just pull out. That's awesome. Bruh. That's funny. Just pull out. Yeah, honestly, Lemon figured it all out. Fuck your cousin. Okay? Just pull out. Or stick to anal. Dude, you're on a roll right now. That's funny. Disgusting, but funny. It's like that. He's out of line, but he's right. Should be evolved to find family gross in that way. That is a thing. Fuck! Pseudo! Family unions would be awkward, right? That's my ex. That's your cousin. That's fucking funny. Holy shit, we're about to fucking die. Dude, these birds are fucking us up. At the very least, royalty only did it because of bloodline reasons. Yeah, most people have no attraction to their family. Unless your cousin Selma Hayek, apparently, right? Who proposed that? Who said that? That was your boy. Holy shit. I guess I could heal. Keep going. Keep going. We're good. We're good enough. I think. I think so too. It's still gross. Also, incest porn is super popular, so some of you are liars. I just like how it has to be clarified. It's step bro and step sis and step mom, you know? Does that count as incest if it's through marriage? I thought it was step stuff. That was, yeah, it's step stuff.
Pretty easy.
That's step siblings category, not real. Not the biological kind, at least, because it gets banned if they don't say step. And what porn are you watching, dude? I only see the non-born, the non-banned stuff, I guess. Oh shit, man, we gotta level up. We have a new party member. The game just got harder. Shit just got real. Oh wait, Fina got fucking burned though. Let's abuse that real quick. Who's next? Actually, I have to check what this chick has. Oh wait, no, it's range based, isn't it?
Oh, flame burn 'em.
Yay! Yeah, I think the step X is a cope. I think I saw a meme once say 90% of wasn't actual step siblings. When it's wheelchair porn. Then goes on saying your 10% of it is real. I don't know. It's the scenarios that kind of bore me now anyway. It's like I'll watch it and I'll be like, that's not a real doctor. She's not selling Girl Scout cookies. My suspension of disbelief is shattered in the porn scene. Like I've said this, I think another time on stream, where it's like, stepmom and stepson are sharing a bed, right? And he has a boner, and she's like, "What is that?" And he's like, "It's my boner." And she's like, "All right, well, just rub it against me, maybe it'll go away." And I'm like, this woman has no idea how boners work. This lady's an idiot. Fuck, dude, I'm getting my ass kicked. Actually, this is.
All right.
Hit my top. Oh, nice. For real, I just want two muscular wrestling. I don't need more story. Well, that's the thing. The stories are kind of dead. I've taken a peep at some of the like 80s stuff, like full on like feature length storylines. I'd rather watch some of that. Bring that back. Bring back a good script. I want to see a video where someone is on their computer and clicks on the banner that says hot singles want to fuck in your area and actually means the hot singles area. Dude, be the change you want to see. Produce that shit. I guarantee that exists. Find it. That's your homework, Jay. Find us that video.
Pretty easy.
Music kind of reminds me a little bit of Jack and Daxter. Link or it didn't happen. I'm the porn savant. I can't even find some video from 2 weeks ago I want to watch again. Nice. That's great.
Take this.
Oh, is that it? Damn it. Damn it! Alright. Uh-oh. You're sleeping. Oh shit. Fina, you got this. Too many eggs in the Ringo Mountains, by the way. Okay, I'll keep looking. Thanks, bro.
Not bad, eh?
I just sometimes put the link in my notes app instead of bookmarking it. Should be one in each area. I'll be looking. I will find him! Oh, wrong person.
Oh, flame burn him!
Fuck him up! Oh shit. Dude, okay, I was like, attack him. You bitch! Oh. Well, it's a good thing I guess he missed his attack. Oh, maybe not. Shit. You changed your shoes, didn't you? Oh, probably not.
Not bad, eh?
Thanks for that. Actually, I have... Let me check her. I actually haven't adjusted her equipment. Let's see. What you got? There you go. There's that. Shield. Sure. No, the shoes are about the same. I know. I mean, a sneaker are better than shoes. Probably change them to Jordans. Ooh. Because the shoes you upgrade in new Parm are slower. I'll have to take a look at the next shop. You're right, this is something I kind of looking neglected a bit. Ah! Okay. Ah, they're chasing me. Fucking die. Do I have the initiative? No. Bullshit!
Oh, flame burn him!
No, you're doing the opposite. The shoes from Parm, because they give so much movement, are better than the upgraded boots in new Parm. Oh. Well, it's too late. It's fine. It's okay. Like I said, I'm not... First of all, I think, if I remember correctly, this game is a little on the easier side as far as JRPGs go. And I'm not really min-maxing. I'll be fine. But I appreciate the input.
Not bad, eh?
I do. Also, it's too late. I'm pretty sure I already sold them and shit. We're gonna find where the fuck is that egg? Oh, for sure. But Justin is just sweating after walking for 5 seconds. It's funny. Oh, you know what? That is a good point. That is a good point. I want to see this one. Fire away. Damn, girl.
Pretty easy, right, Puppy?
I just want to get to Grandia too. But it is nice to replay this one. Like I said, I was so moved by this game that I went ahead and did an art project. Oh. Oh, I see something to the left over there. What the fuck is that egg? Me when it's Easter and I'm trying to beat those kids in the egg hunt. The buffer looks like a pair of tits attached to Stu's head. I can only play this on my Steam Deck and it upsets me. For some reason, my fucking high-end gaming PC gets a ton of slowdown. It runs just at like 25 frames per second. It runs fine on Steam Deck. That's concerning. Yeah, I don't know what that could possibly be. Oh fuck, I want to do her fire attack. Alright, we're getting some damage, boys. Kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it! Killed it. Yeah, that's gotta be annoying. How far are you? I think you said you're gonna kind of pick this back up again. There's some weird emulation interaction with my GPU or something. Who knows? Are you playing the remaster or the PS1 version? Not fair. I'm about to leave the boat. About to leave on the boat. Okay. Remaster. Oh, okay. Honestly, the remaster is probably the way to go. Oh, I think I pushed this. What the fuck is Okay, I got a Y metal. Yeah, the only other time I beat this, it was the PS1 version. And I played every version of 2. I played it on Dreamcast, PS2, and PC, and then the Steam release. Some people really just like the remaster for its smoothing. Dude, I hate the smoothing in this game. Like, I was, like, literally, my first stream, I was like, I wish it was just an option. I would much rather take the fucking crisp pixels over this blurry mess. I fucking hate the smoothing. Yeah, it's kind of ugly. There's a way to fix that. Really? In the remaster on Switch? Is there a setting? Am I tripping? No, not Switch, yeah. Yeah, you can mod everything on PC, that's fine, but damn it, you got my hopes up. I'm gonna go cry now.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, it's not even a mod, it's just some files you delete. Oh, really? Oh, shit. All the pixel stuff is there. Oh, wow. Honestly, that's probably why it runs like shit then. It's probably doing like some live filter stuff. Dude, if it's right there, then they should absolutely make it an option. I hate the smoothing. It would take a day of dev work probably. Oh shit. They should do it. Make it a fucking a patch.
Oh, flame burn.
Like when everybody complained about the smooth text in the Pixel remasters for Final Fantasy, something I also hate. I hate that smooth text. Wait, they didn't kill them? Don't try modding anything on the Switch. Nintendo will brick it. Well, I didn't know it was a mod. I was asking because I thought maybe it was a setting I missed. It may not ever be done though. It's probably it's possible to cause issues elsewhere, which I didn't run into, but they'd be obligated to test it. I mean, I would argue that adding a smoothing filter arguably takes more processing power than just letting the nearest neighbor pixel upscale, you know?
All right, we won.
But yeah, like the game, I hate what they did with the smoothing. The portraits aren't so bad, in my opinion, but it's this shit. The sprites, these, I hate them a lot. Oh, it's a snake. Hold on, where the fuck is everything? Looking for that goddamn egg. Check over here. But yeah, I was very surprised how easy it was to delete stuff. And voila, no more smoothing, at least for like 95% of the game. I wish I could do that. I only have 2 on Steam. I have 2 on Steam. Which is also why I was asking if... Oh, there it is. Hell yeah, brother. If people would prefer if I played the remaster or if I played the original console. So I'm going to play the Dreamcast version. I think that's what was effectively winning that discussion. You know, it's pretty safe here. Instead of pushing on, I think we should camp here tonight. Hey, guess what? I gotta pee. Grandia 2 profited from smoothing a fair bit more than Grandia 1. Yeah, because Grandia 2 is 3D. They didn't, you know, they upscaled. It's actual a higher. It's literally a higher resolution. The thing they did with the 2D assets here is rather than upscaling or nearest neighboring it, they ended up doing this fucking Vaseline smoothing filter, and I think it looks hideous. So at least with 2, it's definitely a tougher or easier pill to swallow, because 2 genuinely looks better. In my opinion. Does that make sense?
Don't you dare.
Also, this one has a mic. Yeah, you guys can hear me.
Don't you fucking dare fail me.
Can you play a version that runs on those tablets that are built into the Samsung fridge? Probably the Windows version. That'll work. Be right back.
Fucking bitch. I can't aim up. How am I supposed to go there if I can't look there? I thought I was going the right way.
This is amazing. Oh, what up, Salt? Do you go by Salt or Tofu? I've been teeter-tottering. How's your day going? Paint me like one of your French girls. Can I? Promise?
Did you kill that Rico?
Really?
Oh shit. Yeah. Like this. Rebecca! Rebecca, no! Chris, I have something to show you. Now, walk. It was only 2 days from retirement.
Save my daughter
Bleh.
and tell her I'm sorry I wasn't better.
Tell you're a bitch. It's supposed to be super scary. Oh wow. Dude, she's like farted blood out. She's like, bleh. And there's like a pool.
Self-destruct sequence has been activated.
Oh shit.
Heyo. Ew. Ew. Damn, dude. What the fuck were you drinking? You rocking it.
Are we gonna do the anime voice competition thing right now? We're gonna be super French. We're gonna do the Oni-chan.
Oni-chan.
I'm back. Hey, what up, DJ? God, Joey's always gone. Sorry, I'm always drinking, which means I always have to pee. You don't own that ball. Haha. Fuck this game. You gotta go to like Poke Shop and then like you gotta go like Poke Shop, Pokeball 5 or something like that. And then you can go Poke Catch. And you throw
Like
it.
I did a sculpture of my, not my cat, but a cat.
Welcome back, dude.
And then somebody said I really captured their pose. And I was like,
Purchase successful. There you go. There you
like, you did
go.
the smallest thing. Which is why I encourage all of you, just go out there and compliment. You know?
What other overlays do I have? I forget.
I like your
I want to further adjust the CRT one because I love like the alerts and stuff for that. But you're right, it is very small compared. Like I guess if you're watching on your desktop, it's not so bad. But if you're on your phone, yeah, for sure. Wait, I have RE chat. What was the? I'm gonna play Absolum again. Catch you later, fam. Peace out, dude. Keep my stream up. Keep my stream up. You lurk. You lurk. Alright, we're good. It was a shiny. Let's go. Oh, you caught it? Nice. Fuck! I didn't catch it. Stream's over. No, I was kidding. Damn it. I should use my Pokecatch Ultra Ball. Maybe I would have had a better chance to catch it. That hurts my feelings. I'm thankful for shiny Yamnega. Thanks, my shiny Yamnega. Hold on a minute, Justin. I'd like to talk with Fina a little more first. Oh, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Are you okay, Sue? After so much hiking, you must be tired. I'm not tired at all. Hey, we're all adventurers, right? This sort of stuff's a cinch. Oh, okay. I'm relieved. Then, why don't you mind, if you don't mind me asking, what were your lives like back in Parm? Justin was a real troublemaker, same as he is now. Fina, what were you like as a child? Me? Well, I was always with my big sister. She was very kind to me. But 2 years ago, she left. She suddenly decided to join. Oh, it's Lena. She suddenly decided to join the military. That's strange. When I first met you on the steamer, I would never have thought that we'd be camping together like this. Ha 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 ha. That's because you didn't have much confidence in me at first. Yeah, but that's because Justin's really still a kid. He didn't even have a choice. Hehe. But now I know I can count on Justin. Look how much he's done already. Damn right, bitch. You mean your sister is in the Garlisle forces? You know, we saw several female soldiers at the Salt Ruins. I wonder if she was one of them. I'd like to give her a steamer, if you know what I mean. Joey, have you looked into Streamlabs overlays yet? So, she's a child. Yeah, she's 15. And we're just gonna go full circle right back into the discussion we had earlier. But, so, DJ, my overlays work. She's fictional. Fair. So my overlays, fucking Roblox diddler. God damn it. My overlays work in Streamlabs as well. It's the alerts that should. I think I saw one of my reviewers on my Final Fantasy alerts said that he got it working in Streamlabs. Shit, I meant the alerts. My alerts should work in Streamlabs regardless. I think it's just up to them to set it up, which I haven't done yet. But they should, in theory, they already work in Streamlabs. You know, we saw several female soldiers at the Salt Ruins. I wonder if she was one of them. Wait a minute, Sue. Those girls were all ugly and mean. None of them could possibly be Fina's sister. Smooth. Okay, because I'm getting Christmas bonus, so I want to give you money. What do you need, buddy? Fam? Or mono? Yeah, those three we saw were so mean. What about the one who was next to the blonde? She was quite quiet and pretty too. Oh yeah. Hey, has money? Hey Justin, are we getting to the Dom ruins to look for Angelo artifacts? Didn't we talk about this before, you dumb idiot? We're headed for Alent. The Dom ruins is just a stop on the way. I need alerts to work in Streamlabs. I will, because I don't think it won't like interfere if I just do one or the other. So I'll install Streamlabs and see if I can set it up on my end, and I'll just give you all the values and shit. Is that a polygon save point? Yeah. Polygonal. That's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's like 8, yeah. I mean, like I said, technically the alerts do work in there. You just have to set them up right. Good old polygon save points, yeah. Alent, I've never heard of that place before. I hadn't heard of it until recently. Maybe it was the Angelo capital, but you can bet it'll be amazing. Well, I sure hope your sister's doing well. Yeah, I guess. Thanks for your concern, Sue. After the Dom ruins lies in Misty Forest. After that is the end of the world. That's right. Where's Alent? You've got to go to Dom and find out. Maybe just to the end of the world? Wait a minute, Justin. No one's ever come back from the Misty Forest. You said just to the end of the world? Peanut. You just don't fucking get it. There's no such thing as there's no such word as impossible for an adventurer. We can do it. I lent you $90 that one time. Why not get one of those devices that lets you smell different smells in video games you play, so when you play a JRPG and you steal panties, you can sniff them. Coochie smell-o-vision. Justin, your brave talk is inspiring me. You're right. We can do it! Alright, let's go. Let's get the fuck out of here. I'm trying to smell that yeast. Oh my god. Calling it yeast. I slept great. Yeah, the air's so cool and refreshing. It's like a bakery. Exactly. Good morning, you two. What a beautiful morning. I want to smell her tread marks. Damn, dog. Who's baking fresh loaves? Oh, that reminds me. At Thanksgiving, my mom's George sent me home with this pumpkin loaf. It was pretty good. I kind of want some. Oh, Fina, you always wake up so early. Hey, what are you doing, little troublemaker? Ha ha ha. Well, of course. Looks like you two still have a long way to go to become adventurers. Pumpkin, not sweet potato? No, it was pumpkin. It's not pie. It was like bread. It was pretty good, dude. Haha. Cut it out, Fina. It was the same when I first met you up swabbing the deck of the steamer. Ha 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 ha, Justin. I think luck is on our side today. The air is very clear this morning, so we can see real far. Look, there's the Misty Forest at the end of the world. Are they gonna do the Grandia theme? I guess. Wow, it's Huge. All that is the Misty Forest? Fina, I can see the Misty Forest, but where's the end of the world? Are you supposed to have a backdrop? You're just in a white void. Oh, no, I'm not. So, in the Final Fantasy VII setup, it's just their portraits, so it's just this. You know? It's just the of each character. Look higher up, Justin. Toward the horizon. I want a lovely sourdough. Hey, Muffin! Yeah, what up, Muffin? Sorry, I didn't realize it was you. You and DJ have like the same like pink names. Joey, did I tell you that I hold 6 world records for Hades 2? You did not tell me that. That's awesome, dude. Welcome in, Muffin. How you doing? Oh, wow. That huge wall is the end of the world, right? That's the end of the world. So do you believe me now? That is the end of the world. I don't know. I need to get closer to tell. I've got to see it myself. So excited now. I just know that Alent is waiting for us somewhere in that forest. Muffin, were you supposed to send me some nudes? This disability is taking so much time for me that I'm just running the damn game every day. What do you mean? Oh, I see what you mean. What world records do you hold, dude? Justin, you're the first person I know who gets excited by just looking at scenery. So let's get going, huh? Once we cross the Wrangle Mountains, the Dom Ruins are right there. Okay, let's go. The first destination, the Dom Ruins! I love the Dom Ruins, Charlie! Big wall. Goals keep doing. Yeah. Oh, 6 world records and the Trial of Chaos. Well, what are the specific records? Like, do you, like, all 6 places, like, if this was like an arcade machine, would you have like all 6? Or is there specific records? I hope I'm asking this correctly. Wait. Okay. What? I held the fastest times in 6 of the 20 trials. Dude, that's cool. Right on, brother. Something tells me this is where I'm going. Okay, it is. Is it? I don't think it is. It's pointing this way, so maybe. Travi, mana culture. Oh wait, Travi's here? Hey, I want nudes. So what do you like more for grandiose worldwide implements? The big ass ball or Grandis Saber cracks? Oh, probably the Grandis Saber. Oh, the wall is actually a very nice location, but like I said, dude, I am printed on Grandia 2. So I would honestly say the Grandis Saber cracks. Wow, I'm actually a man who loves the wall. Anyone got stuff? Dude, I got hella stuff today. I'm popping the seams right now.
Oh,
You be your own people. Really? I thought that had a bigger range. Kill him! Yas! And 2 cheers with Puffy. Yeah. This game's cute, dude. Why does Puffy grow an arm as big as its entire body? Because it's a cartoon, dog. I'm trying to report a whole family to ICE that $750 per is looking pretty good for Christmas. Damn. Is that that's Jinx, isn't it? Yeah, that's Jinx. I never really got into WoW or Arcane. Everybody acts like, I mean, I guess it is, but Arcane's probably like the shit, it seems. How is WoW related? Oh, did I say WoW? I meant LOL. LOL. League of Legends. That's what I meant. What up, peeps? Hey, what up, Travi? How you doing? I meant League. I'm sorry, dude. I did say WoW. I meant League. Sorry, it's letter of letter. Okay. It's all the same bullshit to me. I hate WoW and I hate League. Arcane season 1 was pretty damn good. I believe it. I've heard good things. I just don't care. That's my thing. It's just like I don't care about League, its lore, its characters, its player base. In fact, I hate League players. Arcane season 2. I used to be so into League of Legends. Arcane season 2 is all right. So not as bad watch, but not as good. But I haven't touched it in like 6 years or so. Dude, all of my roommates were like super into League of Legends. To the point where it's just like, there are actually some characters I kind of like. But, I don't know. Amumu ain't in season 2, so, or 1, so I don't care. That's the only character I like. The fact that season 2 is just alright makes me not insistent on watching it. I never met a reasonable League player. Me neither. They're all psychopaths. Confused. Oh, you confused me, no! Fuck. Hold on, fuck! He's killing us! He's fucking killing us! Oh god. Hold on, I'll catch up in a minute. Please, please, please. Okay, I do got one. Ah, shit. Stop confusing him, dick. Oh, and full health? That's not bad. Alright, hold on. Do I have like a confuse heal or something? No. Shit. Nah, League was super fun when it was more casual. Every year they pushed it more as an esport and stamped all the fun out of it. I can actually see that. Okay.
Everyone
that was,
okay?
Whew, that was close. When it was casual. I only stopped playing it for good over a year ago. It's pretty damn fun in the early years. I'm not really into MOBAs. I guess I can see the appeal, but it's just not for me. Genuinely curious. When was it casual? It's pretty casual through probably like the first 5 years. Yeah, I wouldn't know. The only thing, like I said, like there were some like vignettes and things about certain characters I thought was cool, but the game itself and the lore itself, like it's just not my cup of tea. I thought Amumu was kind of cool, but just like in a cutesy way, you know. And then Bye? Is that her name? I liked her intro, because remember when they were giving like music videos to characters? I thought that one was actually kind of catchy. I don't believe you showed me. Wait, I don't believe you. Show me your penis. Memories of doing 5-man pre-made. Someone goes Ramus, teleport toward the side lane bush in between turrets, and the rest of the team teleports to the ward. Penguin, you're speaking French. I don't know what the fuck you just said. I'm offended. Those who played League know.
Pretty easy.
Got it. Stay off the fucking love sack. Sorry. Yeah, around the time they made the lanes and all official is when it started dying. You could just be a roamer doing whatever you wanted. Well, I'm glad you guys liked it, at least at the time. I do see what you mean though, where it's like now it's like I guess it is just straight up an esport, and then probably did rob a lot of the fun out. The time when playing jungle was seen as tryharding. Now is that the strat? If you don't do that, you're sucking. Uh-oh. Damn. So you're getting fucked up.
Not bad, eh?
It became a designated role after like the first or second international event. How many years into the game was that? Oh, magic. Magic. Again. Can't quite remember, but it was definitely the first year I was playing. I wish I saw... that's probably being facetious. I do see the appeal. It's not my kind of game, personally. And the player base sucks. League players are, like I said, they're fucking psychopaths. I want to say around season 5 or 6, way earlier than 5 or 6. Fuck you!
Oh, flame burn 'em!
Dang. Oh, good shit. That counter fucking hella helped. When they actually changed queuing to where you had to choose a role, I don't think it was before season 5. It's funny. I think I'm going around in circles in a weird way. I was trying to like just find everything. Dom Ruins! Oh yeah, selecting where to queue came a fair bit later. They didn't start enforcing roles until the queue change. Oh shit. Man, they're just throwing me into it. I think I'd saved not too long ago. Blech. Oh, ints. Blech. Blech. Why do they sound like that? Blech. Blech. Sorry. Oh fuck. Focus fire! Don't poison me. You're all plant focused. You're all plant based. But pretty much after season 1, if a team didn't have a jungle, it was trolling. Do you know the noises a tree makes? I'm pretty sure they make nothing. Or like, it's just like a leaves in the wind thing. Wow. Oh, I should have used her. Fuck. I fucked up. I should have used her burn. Oh, you had a tribunal before that. Yeah, but you could laugh at the people whining then and call them a slur in chat. After the queue change, you get in trouble with actual mods. Not the nut bomb. Fuck. Ah, cancel. Counter. Okay. Still sucks. Oh Oh shit, Fina, no, I keep doing that. Okay, I have to heal this bitch. Fina!
Come on, get up!
38 damage, wow, yeah, that was fucked. It's okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm on the hard mode. Not for ignoring rules, you could get a ban for refusing to support the bot lane. I'm assuming people didn't lose their minds over slurs. I guess Justin could just attack him. He's been doing alright. You can call me a slur. Not in this chat, preferably. Do what you fuckers want. Thanks a lot, Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh, flame burn him!
Funny. Kill him. Yeah, she ain't doing shit to these things. You're magic lady now. You just use your magic. I'm rich. Sick. I wish you told me how much I earned. I think 2 does. Dude, like I said, this is just adorable and sweet and cute and charming, but 2 is just like, as a game, it's better in every way. I can't wait to get to 2. Checked menu before, then check after. Yeah, that's fair. I don't want to do basic subtraction. User issue. No, game issue. You fucking tell me, okay? You fucking tell me. Oh boy. You.
Oh, flame burn him!
Penguin. What's who are you? I think you like Grandia 1. Would you say like Grandia 1 like is your favorite game? RPG at least? What are you into? Let me in. Who are you? Shit. Damn! Ah! Bobby, it's got overwhelming nostalgia, this one. Yeah, it really does. Well, for me, 2 is the nostalgic one. Fuck. Also, I like how 2 lets me know who they're attacking. This is bad. What's in it for me? Let me see your penis then. What's in it for me? 2 is less nostalgic since I played it a bit later during the PS3 era. See, and that's fair. I totally get it. When I got my Dreamcast, the first year, actually, this is the same year. I got it for my birthday in like 2001, which is July, and it came with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, Sonic Shuffle, which sucks dick, I hate that game, and then Soul Calibur. And then Christmas that same year, which is like just a few months later, I ended up getting Sonic Adventure, Grandia 2, and Resident Evil Code Veronica, you know? I was 11, by the way, so I loved Grandia 2 when it came out. So that, for me, that's always gonna be just like not the peak, but like a fucking formative game. Okay, I'll heal after. Actually, Resurrection? Yas. $5,000 for a nude? I guarantee your little schmeckle ain't worth that. I'd probably say Grandia 2 is a more enjoyable game if I were to play both fresh today. Yeah, but I totally understand the power of nostalgia. It's insane. I completely understand that bias. Like I beat 2. Funny enough, I got it when I was 11, but I honestly don't think I finished it until I was like 13. That sounds right. I think I was in 8th grade. Oh, you know what? It might actually be later because I don't want to get into it, but for various reasons, when I moved to Vegas, we sold basically everything we had, and that included my original Dreamcast and like the game library. So I didn't beat it until I played it on PS2, and that's like the worst version of that fucking game. Oof. I'd say Grandia 2 is, wait, that's your cheapest offer? It's more enjoyable game, hard to play by fresh today. Is that your cheapest offer? Yeah, what's your cheapest offer? But yeah, I don't think I played 2 until it was on PS2. And I honestly, I don't think I got that one. I want to say I bought it with my first job when I was 16. But honestly, my mom might have gotten it from me when I was like 14 or 15. 4,750. No deal, Travi. It's not worth it. Ooh, a chest. 4,750. Who do you think you are? Grandia 2 can get a bit edgy at times though, so do really like the vibrancy and simplicity of it. Yeah, no, I understand that. Like when I played 2, to me it was just like a normal ass, you know, RPG, I guess, but I revisited 1 after the fact, and then that's when I was like, oh fuck, this game is cute and sweet, you know? But 2 is edgy. I think 2 is inherently like significantly darker than this one, and I actually like it for that, because one thing about this game is it's like I feel like nobody takes this shit seriously other than the fact that we're on an adventure, Charlie. Can I pass it off as my own? Sure. Hold on, my phone's blowing up. What is happening? Can you guys hear this? Sick. Hold on, let me look at something real quick. Main reasons I'd say is I'd like Grandia 2 more than 1 at this point. The main cast of characters outside of maybe Sue are 100% better. Yeah, dude, Sue is amazing. Sue is just pure Sue, you know. But I know I'm biased, but like I like the characters of 2 a lot more than this. Ryudo over Justin, you know. Elena over Fina. I think 2 has a better lineup of characters. Merrick, dude, Merrick. Fucking Merrick. Sorry. But Elena isn't the main girl anyways. Is that Melina? Fina over Elena for me. Yeah, you're talking about Melina. Perv. Nah, I don't know, like both, but Melina's more fun. Fina over Elena? Maybe, yeah. Okay. Fina over Elena, but Melina over Fina. When I came here before, it was full of Garlisle soldiers and I wasn't able to go inside. Don't be sorry. I hope you get your ass eaten. What are you up to, Travi? So, this is my first time inside the ruins. I don't know what'll happen now. Okay, let's go. Linda carries Elena pretty hard. I mean, I just like the whole situation there. And I don't want to go into too much detail because I think Jay is still here chilling, and I love 2 enough to where I don't want to spoil it. I hate spoilers in general, but I really want him to enjoy 2 for like the whole situation with Elena. Exactly. I'm intrigued. No, dude. So here's the thing. You could just jump into 2. I did. There's barely any. There's no connections at all, other than the fact it's part of the same franchise, and the theme is the same, and the combat system is the same. But I would much rather you finish 1 than get to 2. Oh shit! They divide. Healed. Oh my god. Wait, I never healed. I just realized. We're fucked.
Oh!
We never healed.
Oh, flame burn 'em!
Speaking of spoilers, who saw Stranger Things? Don't, please. I saw the first episode today. Okay, that's it. Okay, you're close to recover. Speaking of sucking ass, that's what I heard the ending was. I don't want to hear it, but please. I saw the first episode of this season. That's it. I like Stranger Things. In fact, I wasn't this close, but I was tempted to just cancel stream and just binge all 4 episodes. So no details at all. Healer down. Yeah, it's all good. Do I have a resurrection? Oh shit, is she dead? Can I just... Hold on. Ah, fuck, wrong button. Sorry, damn it, it's this button. Okay. Can I... Oh, shit! Hold on. Nobody's got a resurrection. Alright, we're in it now. Recover is close by. Okay, is it? Okay, I'll look for it. Is it this way? I'm gonna just run from everyone. How close is it? Oh, there's just monsters and multiple nosebleeds. Oh, I believe it. Oh no! I should have healed. Very close. Okay. Ambush too. Holy shit. Just use your mad dodging skills. Yeah, I fucked up. So is it further forward? Or is it like, oh, just go left. It's right there. I guess Sue's just fucking face down. Just like E.T. or Pinocchio when he's in the water. Just on that bridge you were on the other side. Okay, thanks. I'm gonna beeline for that.
All right, we won!
Let me get back on the road. Oh god. Shit. Oh. Okay. Hell yeah. Okay, good. This is good. Thanks, Penguin. Whew. items over here. It's actually about goddamn time too. I haven't saved in a minute. Dude, we waited 2 years for that. Oh. No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Sorry. Let's talk about literally anything else except Stranger Things right now. Also, the season's not over. Like, I think you have like what, a third of the show? It's 4 episodes now. 3 episodes and then the finale? Is that how they're doing it? I forget. And I think I heard the finale's gonna go in theaters. I actually kind of want to see that in theaters. That sounds fun. Like, I'm going to watch Stranger Things after this stream. The real question is, how long am I going to be streaming? Hello, Governor. Angel! The things I hate most about modern television is a multi-year gap between seasons. I drop every show that does that. Hey, baby. What's up, Angel? Ayo. I mean, that's just the nature of it. I think literally, like, I think cable shows do this now. I understand. It's frustrating to wait, but it's just the nature of the beast now. Between production value or production costs, production time, the effects. Stream for 1 more hour. I get off work in an hour. I can do another hour. For you, ya boy, I'll do at least 1 more hour. I already got some nudes. I have DMs you can slip them into.
Pretty easy.
Jay, can you do me a favor and let me know if that works out for you? For the lore, I need to know. Angel, how you doing? Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you had a good one. It'll probably work. Good luck, buddy. Pretty Gucci? Nice. Yeah, mine was pretty chill for the most part. I think my sister's mad at me, but I don't know. What's Thanksgiving without a little familial dispute, you know? Does it ever work? And he's like, 1% of the time, it works every time. I want to say happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you got to eat today. I got to eat. I actually have a little bit of leftovers I want to eat, like, now, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for Stranger Things. I'm gonna finish this stream. Then I'm making me a plate, and then watch the rest of Stranger Things. Typo, shito. What are you up to? What'd you make? When I hit you up, you were cooking. Actually, yes. Really? Does it really? Alright, let me do the rah-rah. Rah-rah is awesome. Very rarely, though. Okay, that's fair. Right? I bet you're just joking, right? And all of a sudden you get a nude, you're like, oh shit. Holy shit. Thanks. Vita, no! Ham, turkey, stuffing, greens, beans, potatoes, tomatoes, candied yams, collard greens, cornbread, baked mac and cheese. That's how I know you're cool. All right, motherfuckers. This is the truth nobody wants to hear. Mac and cheese is made in the oven. Okay. Mashed potatoes and deviled eggs. Dude, deviled eggs are the shit. If it was like a Sophie's Choice situation, I'd give up my kid for deviled eggs for sure. God damn it. Wait, what the fuck? Oh, okay. Get the fuck out. No, you motherfucker. You're not allowed within 50 feet of kids, liar. No, I'd pick the kid, but in a funny situation where I'm trying to make a bit. Deviled eggs for sure. Damn. Wait, Sue. Fuck. Oh, I guess she don't got that either. No, I think we're good.
Pretty easy, right,
Greens, beans, tomatoes. You name it. What if you batter and deep fry the deviled eggs? I feel like that could compromise a lot of what I like about deviled eggs in general. Like the texture. I like them cold, you know. But if you could do it in a way to where you can retain at least the texture, that does sound like it could be awesome. But I like deviled eggs as is. Stay away from my deviled eggs. Like, you can deep fry basically anything, and I'm willing to try it, but I just like deviled eggs as is. No gimmicks, no nothing. Just give me the deviled egg. Fina. And then herbs. Oh wait, wound salad. Ooh, what's the one that heals everybody? Let me see. I know I got one here somewhere. Oh, all right, hold on. Wait, what about Fina? First aid to party. Ooh, that's a lot. I don't need all that. All right, we're gonna go to Sue, and we're gonna use your herbs on you. And you. And move seed. Listen. And then we're good. What about angel eggs? I know you're joking, but actually now you got me. Is there such thing as angel eggs? I'm gonna guess no. Ah! Okay, it's the ones that look high because their eyes are all bloodshot. Like you. Those are the ones that move. Oh, Master. Oh, Mastar. Fuck him up!
Pretty easy.
Tight. Wanna play two? Holy mace. Honestly, I feel like the mace would be Fina's thing, no? Like a whip? Oh, Dustin? Oh, okay. Sure. You're... Okay. That's fine with me. I remember this. Yeah, look over there. I can't see the bottom at all. There are angel eggs. They're just deviled eggs, apparently. I was hoping that would be the yolk on the outside and the egg white on the inside. That could be cool, even though I don't think I would want that, like... Fuck, man, I want deviled eggs now. I have eggs. Maybe I'll make deviled eggs and I'll watch... This is a cool dungeon. Yeah, it is. I can make deviled eggs and watch fucking Stranger Things. Are you enjoying the show, Jay? Are you here yet, Jay? Am I ahead of you still? Oh shit. I'm gonna get lost. Way ahead of me. I'm not even at the new continent. Open your mouth, I'll shove a deviled egg in right now. Okay. Okay, good. Aye. Hurry up. It's awkward. Ah, thanks. That was pretty good. Damn, dude, bitch, you used paprika? That's pretty good. Thank you. That was a good one. Appreciate that. You're a real one. That gets you a shout out. Smoked paprika. Hell yeah, you have a cavity. No, I have a filling. It's different. I had a cavity. Everybody, follow her. She's awesome. I order you.
How did you do it? How did you do it, Lex?
Oh, is this that climbing game? The mountain climbing one? What's that called again? Sims 4. Nice. Are you still being a perv? Wait, where'd my audio go? I don't hear audio. Do you guys hear that? Peak, peak. My stream making noise? Oh, everything just went quiet. Can you guys hear me? Mic check, mic check. Yeah, okay, I see that. It's working. I can't hear the game though. There we go. Now I can hear it. I just had to refresh it. Actually, let me do that again. All right, I can hear it. We're good. They just got an update too. What's in the update? That's weird. I don't know if you guys got that, but all my sound died for a second. Kill it, kill it, kill it! I heard you in the game the whole time. Okay, yeah, for me it went out, but we're crisis averted. We're fine.
Not bad, eh?
Does that count as an ambush for me? Yeah. Fuck! I hate that. I should have waited. R&R. They're all just attacking. We're fine. We'll be okay. We'll be Gucci. Oh, I'm not doing anything anyway. Ad break ends? Okay.
All right, we won.
All right! Die! Okay, I was like, at least one of them has to die. Ah! Got it. Bitch. Nice. I needed that. In here. Okay, I love you. Bye-bye. Ah! You got me. Not cool. I got you, bitch.
Oh, flame burn 'em.
Both. Cool, both. Yeah. Is that enough to kill him, though? No. Sick.
Pretty easy.
Right on, brother. I want to see that as like a victory thing. What does this do? Wait, what? Oh, if I had monsters on there, they'd probably fall. That's fine. We don't do that here. Uh-oh.
Take this.
Hey, yo. What? You dumb bitch. So
Does this only have one
voice? No. I don't think so. I just stay up till like 4 AM, but I'm sleepy. It's because my stream's so boring. I'm sorry. Thank you for the redeeming, boy. Dude, I tried to deepfake you, but that was like way more involved than I had any idea. And I was like, I don't feel like doing this right now. If I deepfake that, it'd be way better. Maybe I'll keep looking into it. This is a work in progress. I don't think I'm going the right way. Wait, why do you have to be up till 4? Because work or some shit? I thought you hated AI. Not really.
Announcer, testing.
Hey, what, Penguin? You like 12-hour shift tomorrow night? Ooh. Thank you. I need to get on the right schedule. I feel it.
Pretty easy.
Dude, the other night, I went to bed at like 4 AM because I was playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, the original one. And I had a great time with it, but I woke up at like 2 PM that next day. And I can't keep doing that. Oh, there's ghosts. Ghosts.
The ghosts aren't real, Fina? Then how do you explain the little ghost enemies we are fighting?
Right? There's no such thing as ghosts. Meanwhile, there's an enemy called Vengeful Spirit. Kill it, Sue, kill it. Yeah, I think 2 implemented the whole, I don't know what they call it here, like the time gauge better. It's after 1 AM here. I might go to bed soon and just deal with being tired as fuck tomorrow. No, Jay, you sit here and watch my fucking stream. Or else. Or else you're gonna make Penguin cry. And we don't want that. You'll never get those nudes at this rate, Jay. Where the fuck do I go?
Send nudes.
I can watch you in bed. That's true. Uh-oh. Get him, get him, get him, get him, get him, get him, get him. Sick.
I came here to drink milk and kick ass.
I love that show.
And I've just finished my milk.
Shockwave, hell yeah. Fucking wrong enemy. Dum dum. You know, I guess I'd rather get hit by that than the other dude. I got rid of my Fire TV because fuck Amazon. My TV is literally just connected to a mini PC now. I have a little wireless keyboard instead of a controller. Dude, that's awesome. So you can like actually like be in chat on your TV as you're like remoted in. That's cool. Actually does sound pretty awesome. Wait, where do I go? Hang on. I think I have to go back on the cliffs again. Actually, what's over here? Is this an elevator? Who are you? Oh yeah, this is the thing where it's like it'll be like a trap door. Yup, that's actually really awesome. So is it like connected to your TV directly? What kind of TV do you have? Is it a smart TV? Because the one in my bedroom is not a smart TV. I have a Chromecast hooked up to it that I got for free, technically. I don't think I'm going. Oh shit! I think I went the wrong way. Can I go higher up? Oh wait. Actually, fuck. You bastards. It's smart TV, but I don't connect it to Wi-Fi. Smart TVs suck. Your smart TV sucks. My smart TV is awesome. Guess what? I'll be right back, bitch.
Oh wow, dude, she's like farted blood out. She's like, blah, and there's like a pool.
Self-destruct sequence has been activated.
Oh shit.
I'm not sure if he does, but I'm trying to get later prints. No, I did not. No, I did not. Show's over. Fuck Diggity 85.
Okay. Oh Jesus! Oh fuck! Damn, bro. You okay, Carlos? Is your oil okay? I like the sound of that. Oh, he's fucked up. He's like bugging right now. I'll cheese the fuck out of you. Hell yeah. I lucked out. Did you drop anything? That's funny.
That makes me a little less anxious about signing him up to look after you.
It is Ulysses.
I'm skeptical of anyone that OCP tries
Chat,
to
look, a
push
distraction.
on.
Where?
First Becker, then Washington. And let's not forget about Dr. Blanche. Speaking of which, Dr. Blanche, is she being helpful? Are you getting anything out of
My
those
toe. In my pants. Chat, look, butthole's out. Where? Bro, LMFAO.
I like to open it and check. I'm a bit creeped out. But why? This again. Who is it? Bitch, who is he? Hey. You guys are really sus. Sussy Baka? I got my underwear in there. Bitch, I'm about to take your underwear off. I'm gonna open the fucking... Why won't you?
Did you kill Enrico?
Really?
Oh shit. Yeah. Like this. Rebecca!
Rebecca, no!
I'll show you. Chris, I have something to show you. Now, walk.
It was only 2 days from retirement. I'd pay thousands to suck dick. What? I'd spend so much on PJ. Pick me when you need me. Oh shit! Why did that scare me? No! Oh, I jumped a little bit. That's pathetic.
Alright, I'm back. It's a smart TV, but I don't connect to the Wi-Fi. Smart TV suck. Doesn't sound very smart. Nice. All right. Oh shit.
Oh
Caught
shit,
that.
he's eating your butt.
Crisis averted. Don't worry about it.
Don't eat my butt.
Oh. Yeah, let's save. I have no clue if I'm going the right way or not, to be honest. Also, I might end this soon. It's actually about that time anyway. It's been 3 hours. Sounds like you got smart TV that went to community college. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, smart TV went to trade school, and that's very respectable, okay? Good. Wait. Let me go back down there. Actually, let me see what's out here. Honestly, this is probably the offshoot here. That'll take me to like a treasure, Charlie. Get back. Oh, yep, there it is. Cliff. Uh oh. Yo, Mr. White. The door. What about it? I don't know what you're. Go this way. Go back downstairs. Honestly, that worked out really well. Yas, queen. The door, Charlie. I think we're talking about different references. I don't get yours, to be honest. I was doing, dude, what is up with my audio doing that? Hang on, let me mute. There we go. That's weird. I was doing, Smiling Friends. I love kids, Charlie. I love kids. That's what I was doing. Candy Mountain Charlie.
E.
Oh, are you doing Charlie the Unicorn? Is that Charlie the Unicorn? Shun the non-believer, Charlie. Candy Mountain Charlie. Yeah, that's what that is. My bad. Got my references mixed up. Oh shit. That sucks. I was doing, you never seen Charlie in the Candy Mountain? Is that Charlie the Unicorn? Yes, that is Charlie the Unicorn. Yeah, I've seen it. When they say the door. Yeah, I've seen it. The door, Charlie. It's just been so long. Sorry. Oh shit. These ghosts are spoopy. They took my freaking kidney.
They took my freaking kidney.
You just wake up in like a tub. You're like, oh fuck. No, don't heal. What we're gonna do is we're gonna rah. Then you are gonna, yeah. Oh, it was shockwave actually. Range attack with shockwaves. Let's go for it. And you need magic. Danny makes the entire video so messed up. I need to watch it again. I have seen Charlie the Unicorn, like all of them, I'm pretty sure. But in the last 10 years, no. Fuck.
Oh, flame burn 'em!
Oh, that's a lot of
Not
damage.
bad, eh?
That's a lot of damage. Jay, get back here now. Possibly avoid the scroll one the animator did. Scroll one? I don't think I know that one. Oh shit. Oh, it was ferrets? I don't think I know that one. Are you on my Discord? You should share this kind of shit. V-slash! Actually, let's wait. Yeah, that would have been a waste.
Pretty easy.
Honestly, if I do this right, I could probably stream this like most of tomorrow. I won't be able to finish it tomorrow, but I could definitely put a dent in it. Did you watch Officer Maggot video? What's Officer Maggot again? I feel like it's something you definitely brought that up on stream before. Probably. I feel like I've seen most of the stuff you've sent over. Oh, at your pace, you're looking at another 30 to 40 hours? Yeah. I figured as much. Sam Hyde video? That rings a bell. We've had this discussion. I'm having deja vu. Oop, wrong person. Oh, that works out. Fina, get him!
Pretty easy.
Is he caught pulling people over? Yeah. And egg. Right on, brother. Is he dividing? What's he doing? Lime gas? Nar. Oh, I got him! Hell yeah. Before you escape down ruins or save endings. Wait, you escaping down ruins first or ending. Saving ending stream before boss? I'll try to do the boss. I'm almost there, right? I think I'm almost there. I would like to at least do a boss per stream. You know what I mean? Yeah, and oh shit. What the fuck? Oh, damn it, those bastards. And you get the benefit of not having to fight monsters on the way out. Yeah, that's nice. Wait, I went the wrong. Oh no, it's this way. I remember it could go down. Lucky go down the hole. Did the monsters refresh? Probably. Oh shit, they didn't. Okay. We're not gonna go down that way. We're gonna go this way. Right. What's over here? They will when you leave an area or save. Okay. Ooh, this is it. We out here. Brah. Penguin, you're pretty cool. Oh, she doesn't have any knife stuff. Okay. That probably won't work. Oh shit, he's got other parts of him.
V-slash.
Alright. Fuck his shell up.
Now I'm really angry. Here it goes.
Cause I like blowing up like the parts first. That's not how this works. He's like two forms basically. He's one big car. Okay, yeah. That's the vibe I got right now, to be honest. Just because I'm pretty sure his shell will break, and then there's still more monster to kill, right? It looks like it doesn't fucking matter whether it's his shell or his head. It's the same health bar is what I'm seeing, which is fine. It's fine. What did the V in V slash? Wait, what if the V in V slash stood for virgin? Virgin slash. I can see that. Yeah, the biggest tell is when they do that is the big HP is being identical. Yeah. No, I figured. I think two does the split stuff better. Once again, like, I know clearly you like this one more. I like this game too. It's really cute. I lean 2, but I think 2 is the better game.
Oh, flame burn 'em.
You should do the hard mode for 2. Maybe, because like I said, just based on the feedback I've been getting from people, and I'll put a poll up in my Discord and see if people even care, but I was actually thinking about doing the actual Dreamcast version, and I don't think that has a hard mode. But also, I do have it on Steam and I have it on Switch, so if there's a case for it, I might do that. I could probably do something like that if there's really a demand for it. Yeah, I can't do that on OG hardware. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the never say never. I might. I still haven't decided exactly how that stream's gonna go. Like, I'm still on the fence because, like I said, I like the idea of streaming actual hardware. I only recommend it because it's your number one, dude. Yeah, I love this game. It's at least in my top. This might be my top 5 games of all time. And it is mostly bias, imprinting nostalgia, you know? But I love Grandia too. It is a wonderful game. Fantastic game.
Oh, flame burn 'em.
Tenseiken slash! Staru, no! This game is good, but it's no swords and sandals. Dude, you love swords and sandals. Holy shit.
V-slash.
That's on Steam, right?
Oh, flame burn 'em.
Yeah. I'm glad you like it. I just love when people like geek out about the shit that they love, you know? Fuck. They're gonna get hit. Oh, maybe not.
Oh, flame burn 'em.
Like, I don't think you're joking when you recommend, it's also free to play on websites. Nice. It just doesn't look like my kind of cup of tea as far as games go, you know? I'm always willing to try something, but I don't wanna. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. How much damage is that do? Dude, this is our first time getting hit, I think. Yo, Mr. White. It looks dumb, but when you actually play it, you'll change your mind about it. I'm willing to give it a shot. I don't know if I'll do it on stream, but I'm willing to try it, dude. Especially since, like, I feel like, kind of like me and Grandia. I feel like it's one of those games that, like, it probably means a lot to you. In the redo, the rush attack does like 80 damage. Ah, I see. I know. Don't give him any turns. Didn't give him any turns. Yeah, I've been trying. That's what I love about the Grandia combat. It's just like interrupt. You know, it's the battle for time. This is my first time experiencing anything like that. Contextual Penguin. If you like this style of game, which we do, have you ever played a game called Child of Light? It's literally Grandia with like one girl and like a little wisp thing. It's like a little wisp character. No, play it on stream so we can see your reactions live. Okay, I can do that. It's free on stream? On Steam? I'm sorry. I'll talk to you later. Gonna go watch Scott Pilgrim vs. the World with the homies. That movie's so fucking good. All right, Angel, thank you for hanging out. I hope you have a great rest of your night. You are wonderful. Hugs. Mwah, mwah. Thank you for the deviled egg. Have a great rest of your stream. It's gonna end soon. What was I gonna say? I'm gonna do the same, but it's gonna be Stranger Things in a minute. I'm gonna watch at least 2 episodes. But yeah, let me get through this dungeon and then I'll yeah. But Angel, bye. Everybody give Angel a follow. She's dope. When's your next fucking stream, by the way? Are you still here? Get back here. When's your next stream? What's this pedestal for? Justin, haven't we seen this somewhere before? It looks like. I know. We just saw one like it at the Salt Ruins. Salt Ruins? Isn't that where you saw someone named Liette? Since this is the same, let's try doing this. I've heard of that game. I didn't know it was like this one though. Dude, the like literally the you know, the cue, the command, the action, like it's the same fucking style of like interruption, time, meter, wait, attack stuff as Grandia. It's called Child of Light. I think it's an Ubisoft indie game. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Look it up, at least. I don't know what consoles you have, but if you like Grandia, it's that combat style. I thought it was more akin to Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is a action RPG Metroidvania, no? Child of Light is nothing like that. This is the same. Let's try doing this. Justin, huh? What? What? Oh shit. It's Liette. Welcome, Justin. You've been blessed by the spirits. Swords and Sandals and Swords and Sandals 2 are free if you go to the Flash game websites for it. I can send you the websites now. When you want to play Swords and Sandals 5, you have to buy it on Steam if you want to play that one, but it's on Steam. On Steam, it's $10 for the bundle. It has multiple games. I think Swords and Sandals 1 through 4. Now, is this a campaign? Is this a game you can beat? Is there a story mode? We've come closer, Liette. What about Alent? Where is Alent hidden? Oh shit.
There is no one in this world who would interfere with the blessings of the spirits, or with our civilization, which began together with this spirit light. Our civilization
there is a story.
Began to
okay.
far and wide.
It got similar 2D walking around vibes, but combat is full turn-based. Well, combat, it's Grandia. If I remember correctly, you can interrupt. You can like there's a queue of like when you select your command and you wait, and then if you do this, you knock them back in the queue. Like it's got the Grandia
that you are in now
combat. Yep, IP gauge turn-based. Yeah. Yeah.
Go east, Justin.
Guaj. I actually read it as Gauge, but now that you mentioned it, I see it.
Is a place far from here. you still have a very long way to travel.
East? From here?
But yeah, dude, the combat system is
Soon we'll reach
it's
the edge of the world, Liete.
Liete?
Tell
Oh,
me,
it's
please.
Liete. It's basically Grandia.
Where is this Alind?
If you like that combat style. The game itself is
no
2D.
such thing as the end of the world, Justin.
Yeah, you idiot. It's a sphere, you flat earther. There really is no end of the world. You can see that with your own eyes. Oh, let's go. Well, then our adventure isn't over yet. I mean, we still haven't made it to Alent yet, right? Ha! Ha! Got ye! There is no end of the world. Are you two listening? I say there's something on the other side. Our adventure isn't over yet. But Justin, didn't you see how tall that wall is? Do you really think we can cross it? And not only that, there's the Misty Forest out there. No one's ever returned from it. So what's wrong? All that doesn't really matter. Don't you agree? I'm an adventure, Charlie! I can go anywhere. I can return from anywhere. If people don't even go there, of course they won't return from it. They'll be the first one to do it. Alent is waiting for us just ahead. Let's go, Fina and Sue. Across the Misty Forest to the other side of the end of the world. Fuck you, boy. Nobody wants to play your browser game. I sent the website for Sword and Sandals too. He said he'd try it. Yeah, I'll try it, bro. I'll try it. That's funny. That's awesome. I guess I do gotta backtrack. Alright, going this way. I just read that as fucking you, boy. Alright, hold on. Let's get out of here first. I'm gonna get to at least the next area, and then I'll probably quit. Let's do it. I don't know where to go, dude. I think this is where I came from. Might be. Cliff. I climb the cliff from here. Don't try Sword and Sandals 3. It's not as fun. Like, it's a completely different game. Dude, this is hilarious for multiple reasons. Your initiative. Oh shit, they split apart. Oh wait. Guess the range increased? Fuck 'em up! But Sword and Sandals 4 is even more different from 5, but 5 looks fun. Is 5 not out yet? Is 5 upcoming? Have you pre-ordered it? I'm really glad I'm playing these, by the way. Five is out already? Okay, okay. I wasn't too sure.
Oh, flame burn 'em!
Is that one for sale? Or is that free on the website?
Pretty easy.
Fuck. What's over here first? I feel like there's something special right here. Oh no, it's where I came from. Fuck. Wait, where the fuck am I going then? Penguin. Am I going the right way? I don't think I am. I mean, I'll do this again, but I don't know. I'm kind of lost. You can buy the whole Sword and Sandals anthology for $20. Dude, that's a steal, man. You should add that to your poll, and we'll all vote on that one. 5, you have to buy. They reworked the entire game mechanics and turned it into a new game. I have to look up more of this game. It looks bad. I mean, I think he's... Did your boy not stream some of it? I think I looked up on like a trailer and I was like, yeah, this doesn't look like my thing. But he mentions it so fucking much, I'm like genuinely curious now. Like maybe we are missing something, Jay. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here. Where the fuck do I go? I'm going like completely the opposite direction, but like I hit a wall, you know? 5 is like Pogs. You know what I mean? I love my Pogs, dude. PAWG? You don't see the body. Badass white girls? Yeah, Jay knows. Jay knows what's up. Asian. Slide is a good way out. Is it really? Is that where I'm supposed to go, dude? To the slide? Because I was actively avoiding that. So, because this is where the boss was, right? Yeah. I'll go to the slide. If you're trying to get out, yeah. Oh, thanks. Don't laugh at me! Alright, let's go. I think it was... this way. I'll get to the slide. Ah, man, dude, I don't remember this map. More trouble getting out than in. Dude, yeah, that is something I do remember in this fucking franchise. No Pogs, like this. I know what you meant by Pogs, like the 90s thing. I got my Hulk versus your Cobra Commander. Okay, I guess I go this way. Right. I don't know where I'm going. Penguin, this game sucks. No, no. Am I going back where I came from? Africa? Mexico? I'll go back if that's what the game wants me to do. My Angela White versus your Alexis Texas. What about my Carly Gray versus your I bless the rains down in Africa. I bless the rains down in Africa. My Carly Gray will beat up your Angela White. That's fucking funny, dude. Sorry, I'm just thinking. That's funny. Like, I faced my Dillian Harper down and end my turn. Almost out? Okay, good. No, this is the wrong way. I go down, right? Angela White takes a beating every video, so I don't know if yours will win. Well, the thing is, I mean, I'm not even that T intersection with the save point was a shortcut. Okay, so am I going the right way now? I don't know, man. Porn nowadays is kind of weird. It's like basically like a WWE fight.
Oh, flame
Yeah,
burn 'em.
hell yeah.
What a cinch.
You don't know about the ultimate surrender, do you? No? What the fuck is that? I'm giving up. It's bedtime. Have fun with sword and sandals. I need you to be there when I actually play this. I'm gonna hop down. I'm gonna do it, Penguin. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go right. Go left. Ah! Okay. Peace out, Jay. You have a great night. Thank you for hanging out. I'm going left. Ah. Run! I know what that is. Go left. Okay, hold on. I'm trying to get the fuck out of here. I appreciate the help, Penguin. I beat this game before. I don't know why I'm having such a fucking hard time with it. Alright, let's get the fuck out of here. Elder Center is when they got two women wrestling naked. They have a point system, and whoever has the most points will get to dominate the other women's with a strap on. Now, is this like actually like up in the air, or is this like wrestling where it's, you know, predetermined? Asking for a friend. That's not in WWE. No, I figured as much now. Oil wrestling. Sick.
Here goes!
Oh shit, got them all.
What a cinch.
It's a real video series? Oh, I believe it. I was just wondering, is this written? Is this predetermined? Or is this like actually like up in the air? Like, fuck, dude. Fuck, I thought Sasha actually had it that time. Back to you, Tom. So Justin, I know you said we'll be able to climb over that wall. Build that wall! But, sorry. But just how will we do it? Hey, I said it'd be okay, alright? So don't worry, we'll find some way to get over it. It's real to me, Dip. What you guys do to your body, it's still real to me, god damn it! Dude, I love that video. Ultimate Surrender, male edition. Not quite my flavor, but to each their own. Hey, I said, oh yeah, we'll find some way to get over it. Justin, don't tell me you don't know yet. I swear, you'd be lost without me. Ah, that's Justin for you. Maybe we should stroll back to New Parm to get prepared for this. Yeah, let's go back to New Parm. Just take me to New Parm. I don't want to fucking walk there. I have no sense of direction, you bitch! It's this way. Ooh, let me save. Ooh. Wait. There we go. That's better. Probably a good stopping point. Yeah, but I'm gonna get to the— oh shit, I missed this. The blue pill. Damn it, what if I want the red pill? Oh, they're all full? Wait. Discard inventory. Let's get rid of a mana egg. No. Let's get rid of banana? Rid of banana. Alright. You want to keep this? You want to keep this. Okay, yeah. Did anyone hear that Bonnie Blue now has her own version of the Bang Bus driving around right now in England? Deleting an item in between two mana eggs? Well, I can delete a mana egg. No, I have not heard of this, this UK Bang Bus. They're like,
here goes!
Hello! Are you Randy? I say! How much to get over there? And then they're like... I'm trying to think of like English phrases. Sometimes slip your fingers deletes things we don't intend. I didn't delete the mana eggs, did I? Am I still Gucci? I was too busy trying to be funny about this fucking UK Bang Bus. Ah! Let me out. Wait, Justin. Look over there. Someone's collapsed. Oh! I'm having flashbacks. I remember. Bonnie Blue got banned off OnlyFans. Wait, why'd she get banned off OnlyFans? I'm surprised she's not like their fucking cash cow. And every other platform, so she made her own platform and it's just going around in a van picking up random dudes like the Bang Bus. Well, first of all, it's not random dudes. This is all planned. Just so you know. It's a little kid, he's unconscious. Sorry to break the illusion for you, but that shit's planned. They're like, hey, that one. He signed the waiver. He's been tested. He's bleeding. Oh no, he's got a bad wound. Look, Fina. This kid has horns and a tail. She got banned off OnlyFans because of the 1,000 Dude gangbang and the petting zoo. I don't know about the petting zoo, but I did hear about the gangbang. Hey look, his eyes are open. I imagine he's just like speaking Spanish. Oh good, he's coming too. With Bonnie Blue, it may not be scripted. It's scripted. I mean, the bang thing. Pretty sure that was a little improvised. But Bang Bus, there's no fucking way they could pull a stranger up off the fucking street and be like, hey, let's fuck on camera for money. It's prostitution. It's planned. He isn't an animal, is he? He looks so human. And I imagine fucking Glep from Smiling Friends, he's like, blah, 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 blah. See, he's doing it right now. The petting zoo was her locking herself up in the clear box and having certain parts that were outside the box and letting random people off the street just walk up and do whatever. Jesus Christ. That's...
Ow! Ah! Justin!
I like how random stuff is voiced. I actually thought this would be like a whole voice sequence. Ouch, he's biting me. Stop it. What's going on? What is this? Oh, we passed out again. We've got to help him quickly. Justin, lend me a hand. Let's take him to my place. Hurry. Okay. Here, let me take him. Starts dragging him. Yeah, I'll get to the next save point and I'll probably call it there. I'm quite enjoying this. Oh, dang, they just missed him. Look, Saki. Look, Mio. Damn it. Okay, everyone hold on. Humanoid search unit, stop here. That's strange. My calculations show that anyone with a wound like that should be able to travel so far. Nan is a bit short of common sense. She said standing watch is boring, so she went to buy makeup while on duty. Nana, I'll listen. I'll still be your friend, even if you get kicked out of the forces. You guys are so obstinate. Hey, me? I can't wait. Oh, I can't stand the smell of animals. I can't do this without splashing on some perfume. But what shall we do, Mio? That humanoid we caught is valuable. We gotta find it. Now that I have a family, I would greatly appreciate it if everyone could not bring up the 1,000-man attempt. Otherwise, you're all heartless and should be ashamed. I think I did see something that was basically, I mean, like, look. The stuff you're doing right now is the stuff of legends, okay? To expect people to not immediately associate you with your $1,000 or 1,000 dude deed, then, you know, stop doing it. I know. Let's use the force's search hounds. If we stick to my plan, it'll work perfectly. Excellent idea, Mio. What a better way to track the beast, sorry, a beast than with another beast. Let's get back to the base and get ready. Attention! Humanoid search unit, about... Back to our frontline base. Ooh, we're doing a fancy cut here. Nice. Most people won't even won't reach triple digits in a lifetime. Man. I haven't even hit double digits yet. What should I do? I gave him a dose of regular medicine, but he seems to have a slight fever. Well, will he get better? This doesn't look good. This kind of fever happens when the wound gets infected. It could be fatal. You know, there must be something we can do. I'd say a good majority won't hit double digits either on that token. Thank God. Oh. If I had an herb called sulfa weed, it would fight the infection, but at this time of year... Hey, Don't give up so quickly. Let's go looking for it. Who knows? We might find some. Those are rookie numbers. You need to pump those numbers. You need to pump them up. Yeah. You're right. Okay, let's go. There's a lot of sulfur weed growing in the Rocky Mountains behind my house. All right, and with that, I will call it here. Hello. Who's live? Let's see. Am I following them? Oh shit! You know what? I know exactly who we're rating right now. Okay, everybody. This is legit one of my best friends. We were roommates. We lived together for years. I love this guy. He's also a fantastic streamer. So I highly recommend him. If you're not already following, you should. Good guy. He's a good guy. You know? I love him. Don't tell him I said that. Tell him I said right in his face. I'll tell him about the porno talk we did today. He'll be into it. Honestly, if he was here, he would have been involved. So do it. But all right, his name is Lemon Wedges. You can call him bitch. No, don't do that. Oh, he was. Yeah. No, this guy's awesome. So, all right, I'm gonna go watch Stranger Things, and I hope you guys all have a great rest of your night. Thank you for hanging out. I should stream again tomorrow, probably a little bit earlier, and hopefully a bit of a longer stream. I'm kind of excited to get into this game, and I can't wait to get to 2. 2 is where it's at. Like, I'm already enjoying myself with this one, but when I get to 2, I'm gonna be fucking just like ecstatic. So peace out, everybody. Once again, thanks for hanging out. Hak Tua, happy Thanksgiving. Hands down, the Alan solo episode of Smiling Friends was the best. This is the one where he dies and goes to hell. All right, bye.